Welcome to DAX Machina. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Good evening, folks, and thank you for joining us for another edition of DAX Machina. We're going to have an awesome show for y'all tonight. We're going to be talking about my Teddy Roosevelt theory, which I'm finding is carrying a lot more traction than it did when I first started talking about it. And I'm not the only one that seems to have this idea. I think we're going to have a good show for you guys tonight. We're going to dig in depth into this. We're going to go back through some of the history dating back to when Teddy was a young man. And I think we're going to go down the right rabbit holes tonight. Joining me tonight is my brother from another mother, who's now in El Paso, but normally from California. I'm not Colorado. Sorry about that, Doc.
No custom.
Yeah, Gary Pocket Doc Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and we've got a rare and like sideways Bigfoot style sighting of the Steve, owner of Steve's Pub and Grub from the Wild Hunt books. We're glad to have Steve. Mr. Robbie Raines is in Washington, D.C. with his son tonight, attending a big soccer game, and he won't be with us. And Anthony is still working on some personal business, so he won't be with us tonight either. So glad you guys are all here. Glad Doc's safe and made his trip all right. Boys, how the hell are you guys?
Wyatt, I am rolling.
I am hanging in there to play off a Doc here. I have not yet begun to defile myself, but we may fix that.
I am tired. I've been talking all day, so my voice is going to sound like I've been smoking 2 packs of Luckies a day. I need to switch to filters.
You're a little husky today here, Doc.
Exactly. A little deeper.
I've been spending today selling med kits and med kit accessories.
I sell med kits and med kit accessories.
Northwoods is on a roll already. He said, when I first saw the cover for tonight's show, the sketch of the Ozark Howler made me think I might be walking into one of my ex's family reunions.
Oh my God.
Northwood scores early, folks.
Oh, man.
Part of the reason I even join these shows is just to hear what Northwoods is going to have to say.
I know, right? I know.
No, I love hearing from those out in the gallery, so to speak.
Oh man.
So, how was the trip to El Paso?
It wasn't too bad. It was a little bit long. I got stuck. I got train track. It delayed me by about 20 minutes, but I made a drive a little over 9 hours, so it wasn't horrible.
Well, I'm glad you made it. I'm glad you made it safely.
Me too, brother. Me too. Yeah. No crazy stuff. So just keeping my head down and staying in the room for the most part.
Well,
Go ahead,
Doc. If you get yourself abducted, you might find a new market for your med kits.
Somebody will need them, and I don't think it'll be me. Yeah, like I told my wife, I said, the only way I'm going across the border is with a hood over my head, and they gonna earn that shit. Believe me.
Yeah, they're gonna find out that pocket docs don't take the Hippocratic Oath. They will inflict damage.
Yeah, they will. That's for sure.
Penny Van says, "I hope there'll be a puppy sighting in Steve's room."
If Kenai has anything to say about it, there will be. He's been outside the door.
Just wondering why he's not allowed in the meeting.
Yeah, let me see if he's still there.
He's
Kenai, you out here?
Oh man,
he's either gone to bed and given up on me, or he's gone into my son's room.
It's like, hey, screw you guys, I'm going home.
He was actually in the recliner taking a nap. I'm here. Gotta please the audience. Your public demands you, buddy. Yes, your public demands you.
My public.
Kenai's adoring fans.
Oh my Lord. My dog's obsessed with webcams. I don't know if they put out some radiation or something, but he doesn't care if the computer's on. But as soon as a webcam comes on, you don't have to speak. He's in the room looking.
He's just a ham.
I guess. Too many Zoom calls when I was teaching at the nursing school.
Maybe it emits a very, very fine whine or something. A very high
I don't
pitched
know.
whine.
But like he appears, it's kind of like when I pop a cork off a bottle of Bushmills and you just kind of show up at my house, DA. It's
If you're going to use a summoning circle to summon me, a bottle of Bushmills, a cup of dark roast coffee, and a box of 9mm, and I'm there.
Just put that in a snare and you catch him.
That's right. Seriously. Every time. That's how you get me, is free ammo on the side of a van.
Oh man.
So boys, how much do you guys know about Teddy Roosevelt?
He was a scary son of a bitch. That's the main thing I know. He wasn't always. He was actually a very sickly kid. He had asthma.
Asthma really bad. Yeah,
he had real bad asthma. He was born in 1858, shortly before the outbreak of the Civil War. And the whole time he grew up on tales of like the old West gunfighters and men's adventure novels, the old penny dreadfuls of the day, and what do they call them, dime novels.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically what he immersed himself in, because he couldn't really be outside like a lot of other kids. But he decided at one point that he wasn't going to let asthma beat him. He started physically challenging himself and forcing himself to do more and more until he finally basically became the robust personality that we all know, when we think of Teddy Roosevelt. But he went from being a kid that was basically a shut-in to the wilderness hunter that we know. I mean, the guy hunted every game animal you can hunt I think mostly on the planet. I think he hunted Cape buffalo. The guy was a serious outdoorsman and was one of the U.S.'s first true economists. I mean, he wrote about wildlife economy. He really pushed conservation at a time when hardly anybody else was, and it was through him that we have the modern National Park Service. But I think some other things happened before that happened. What do you guys think?
I do. I believe that. And I remember I read, my mom had got me a bunch of learn about such and such presidents and things like that. And then on top of that, I'm reading some of his early life. And the one was the one you and I were talking about, DA, in Montana. It was like in the 18, I want to say it was like 1890s. And whenever they had the encounter, it was a fatal encounter. It was the Bauman encounter. And that one right there, when I heard about that, I'd heard about that before I even, had any before I met you. I heard years ago. And when I heard about it, I was like, that's pretty interesting. And I was wondering, whenever we had talked about it on the show, I wonder if that was some shape, form, or fashion of him maybe protecting their national environment by even starting the National Park Service. I don't know if that had something to do with it.
I think it started even earlier than that. Everybody knows about Teddy Roosevelt and the famous charge up San Juan Hill in Cuba, correct?
Yes.
The Rough Riders. Well, during his time with the Rough Riders, he got to know a man by the name of John C. Greenway. They were in the Rough Riders together, and Greenway was a native born and bred of Missouri. Actually, I'm sorry, not Missouri, Arkansas. And Greenway is the first person that told Teddy Roosevelt about the Ozarks Howler. In fact, Greenway told him so many stories about it. Teddy was so intrigued. He's like, this thing sounds like the ultimate hunt. Tell me more about this thing. I want to know about this powerful creature. Well, Teddy Roosevelt wound up getting inducted into a secret society that still exists today. Although I've yet to been able to find anybody that will actually admit to being part of it. It was called what was it called? Hang on a second. I had to go to my notes. I'm not even sure I can say this right. It's spelled Concatenated, Concatenated Order of the Hoo-Hoo. And apparently that was, like a local name from Arkansas of the Ozarks Howler. this order, the concatenated order of the Hoo-Hoo, they inducted Teddy Roosevelt, and eventually he became president of it. In fact, it was the establishment of the Ozark National Forest in Arkansas by Teddy Roosevelt that was set aside specifically for the Ozarks Howler. It wasn't just set aside as a national forest. It was specifically partitioned as a preserve for the Ozarks Howler. So any theory that we had, any idea that we had that Roosevelt didn't really know about cryptids before, that's kind of out the window with this information. Roosevelt absolutely knew about cryptids, but the weird thing is there was another one of the other presidents, Harding. Harding was a believer in the Ozarks Howler, but he believed it was an omen of death. And he wrote about it in a letter to his sister-in-law that 2 of his political aides had died within a month of seeing the Howler. So these guys had actually seen it. So it goes beyond Teddy just thinking that the Howler was out there. Supposedly they saw it.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of hard to take an organization seriously, with the name, the Order of the Hoo-Hoo.
Order of the Hoo-Hoo.
Yeah. It sounds like some kind of fraternity hazing.
But apparently it still exists. It's a fraternal order that's dedicated to protecting and preserving the Ozarks Howler. And from what I'm given to understand, 2 former U.S. presidents were members. So this is a legit secret society that I've yet to be able to track down. There's a secret society here locally called the Knights of Pythias, and I actually managed to track down a guy who was a member of the Knights of Pythias. So I know that organization's still out there. However, this concatenated order of the Hoo-Hoo, nobody's willing to admit they're actually part of it.
Yeah. Interesting. I'll have to do a little deep dive into that organization, try to find out more about it.
Chad Ray says the Order of the Hoo-Hoo is definitely in Gurdon. I drive past the building regularly. Wow, I need to take a trip down there then. Ryan Burke, he's my buddy from Horror Chronicles. He says, I believe the last sighting in the Howler was about a half mile behind my house. That was back in 2019, I believe it was. That was actually that sighting's been featured on documentaries on the History Channel and the Travel Channel. But that is right between Ryan and JT's houses, about halfway. Bizzle says, is it Hoo-Hoo or Hoo-Hoo? It's HOOHOO. Tomb says, I wonder what the membership entails. I don't know. I would actually, consider being a part of an organization like that because it's protecting a cryptid. Ken's putting us back on topic apparently. Says hopefully TR had nothing to do with anal coring. I'm still scared from that episode. Mondoc says, Steve, you might want to have your search settings on safe when researching the Order of the Hoo-Hoo.
That's true.
Yeah, I think that's one of those ones you don't use on a work computer.
No, definitely not. Miss Lene says, seriously, I don't think I'd go around telling folks about being in the Hoo-Hoo. Robert
I'm a little
know if they let
concerned.
hobbits in.
Having been in some of these fraternal organizations before, with a name like that, you kind of wonder what the initiation's like.
Yeah, exactly, man. I like what Ryan Burke said. If I run into the Howler, I'd be called the Order of the Poo-Poo.
Probably ain't wrong.
Brown pants, baby.
Penny Pants says, oh my God, running to the bathroom. Y'all got to make me pee the chair.
You mentioned all those places that initiation starts like, this isn't all like the Elks.
You got to sneak up and scratch the Howler's nuts without getting mauled to death.
Getting mauled.
Hey, my buddy Brian Forrester is actually the inspiration for Marshall Forrester in the books. He's in the chat tonight. Hey, bud. He says he could wind up divorced and red flagged. That's good, man.
Knock on the door and Sasquatch opens it. Come on in.
Yeah, gives you the lurch. You rang.
Yeah, go. Oh Lord.
But Teddy Roosevelt, was a serious hunter. I mean, the guy hunted dangerous beasts. I mean, supposedly he even hunted elephant, which an elephant. I don't really consider an elephant dangerous unless you piss it off. Generally, if you leave it alone, it'll leave you alone. But he hunted dangerous predators as well, including grizzly. So the dude was a serious hunter, and was serious about conservation, and to know that he was actually involved in an organization that dealt with the preservation and protection of a cryptid, but long before he was president, that kind of speaks volumes about the guy.
Well, what intrigues me most about your theory is, when I first heard of it a couple of years ago, I think you mentioned it on one of our shows. I'm like, okay, well, DA's got a pretty creative imagination. I read his books. And then I started looking, and I found a site, and I wish I could find the damn thing again. But it was an interactive map of the U.S., and it had a little slider bar at the bottom of it. And as you move the slider, it fills in cryptid sightings in the U.S. And so it just fills them as you go. And you overlay that with a map of our national park system, and there's a correlation that's not just accidental. And then if you look at stuff predating the formation of the national park system, it's still consistent. One could easily argue, well, all these sightings are in the national park system. Well, no kidding. You've got all this wilderness now. But the fact there were before then, I'm like, yeah, something's a little crazy there.
Naoma.
Miss Lene. Miss Naoma. God, my gosh. Ryan, we need to get up there. I want to go out there and do some filming. Go out there with you and JT, and we're going to need to film in that area. I know we've talked about the actual Bowman incident before, but we've always really kind of just glossed over the details. I've actually got text of the Bowman incident pulled up, and I'm going to read a big chunk of this, and y'all listen to this and listen to the level of details. Again, I grew up in predominantly hillbilly Missouri, and I've had lots of people that were backwoods folks that would tell me stories. You got to be pretty much part Missouri Hill folk to get some of these folks that can open up to you, but I never have ever gotten this level of detail. So let me guys. This book was the book The Wilderness Hunter was actually written in 1893. Which was long before Teddy was president. And he still had political aspirations. Even though later he would admit to having a Bigfoot experience of his own, he never went back and admitted to being Bauman, which I think the reason he didn't do that is because there might have been some question involving the death of the other trapper, which was never given a name. The story told by Teddy Roosevelt was of a man named Bauman who is referred to in the text as a grizzled, weather-beaten old mountain hunter. There are no other details about Bauman except for that he was of German heritage and had lived all of his life on the frontier. The old mountain man tells the future president that he and an unnamed partner had planned to trap beaver in a remote section of the Montana wilderness near the Wisdom River, now known as the Big Hole River. Other hunters avoided that area after a trapper's mutilated body was discovered sometime earlier by a group of miners passing by his camp. So it was not the first time somebody had been killed in this location. But basically, what happened with this incident is Bauman and this other unnamed hunter were not deterred by the stories, and they decided to head back into that deep area of Montana backcountry. They made a quick lean-to shelter, and with a few hours of daylight left, they made their way up to the river to scout. They returned at dusk to discover that their cover had been destroyed and their belongings had been scattered around the campsite. Thinking it was a bear, they cleaned up, and Bauman set about making supper. His partner left to investigate some tracks, and what he found could not have been made by a bear, but by something that walked upright on two legs like a man. But no man could have left these prints. The trapper returned to camp and told his partner what he discovered. Bauman scoffed at his partner's concern, but the man was adamant about his findings. The hunters settled into sleep, but it would not be a restful night. Sometime before dawn, Bauman was awakened by the sounds of breaking branches and a foul-smelling odor. He could see a big hulking shape looming in the distance and fired his rifle at it, but whatever it was fled into the darkness. The two men built up the fire and sat up the rest of the night. The next morning, they stayed close together and worked their traps. Later, when they returned to camp, they again found the campsite destroyed. This time, the men built a more significant fire and agreed the next day to leave the area. In the morning, with the sun shining brightly, Bauman and his partner felt a bit foolish for letting their fears get the best of them, and while Bauman gathered the last of the traps, the other hunter returned to camp to make final preparations to leave. When Bauman finally returned, he was greeted by the horrific sight of his partner's body laid out with a broken neck and bite marks to his throat. Bauman paused only briefly to survey the scene, trying to make sense of what had happened. Then, taking only his rifle, he fled the camp, making it to where the horses had been tied. Bauman makes no mention of what he thought the creature was, and Roosevelt does not call it a Bigfoot or a Squatch in his book, but it has all the hallmarks of Bigfoot stories: the foul-smelling, large, hulking body and the large classic tracks. Bauman was an old man when he supposedly when he told the tale to Roosevelt that must have made an impression on him to include it in his book. Again, this is just like an excerpt of it. It's not the actual full Bauman account. I'm not 100% sure I can read the full Bauman account without getting a copyright flag. But the book is still purchasable on Amazon. It was, even though it was written in 1893, you can still actually buy The Wilderness Hunter. But the level of detail in that is just so incredible.
Yeah.
It talks about the type of trees. It talks about the kind of traps they set out. And again, I just read an excerpt, like the Reader's Digest condensed version. But they talk about how the traps were set, what they used for bait, how they skinned them and prepared the beaver. The level of detail is just incredible. So I'm firmly convinced that Bauman really was Teddy Roosevelt.
Could be.
Steve, you're muted.
Sorry, Keenan was barking when the family came home. It would be really bizarre if it wasn't Roosevelt and he was just relaying somebody else's story to put in that finite level of detail. You just don't do that when you tell somebody else's story.
Right.
Did you see the posting from Miss Naoma? She found the logo for the
really,
for the Order of the Hoo-Hoo. It's a few posts back. I can't make them show up on the screen. I'm sorry. It was. Let me see. Back to where
the symbol is a cat.
There it is.
Huh.
That's what I was.
Well, that's really cool.
Yeah, definitely need to do a dive.
So when did he see the Ozarks Howler? When was
sometime after after San Juan Hill and before he became vice president.
Okay.
It doesn't say the exact date, but because of his friend, he became so interested in this that he went to Arkansas with John Greenway, and they not only inducted him into the Who Society, but they took him out and supposedly him and President Harding both had actually seen the thing.
Naoma says the order actually has a Wikipedia page.
Really? Huh. Well, okay. Well, send me the link on that, Miss Naoma. This article says Roosevelt established the Ozark National Forest in order to contain the Ozark Howler, to put it in a box. A few years later, he was dead. Warren G. Harding, the other presidential member of the concatenated order, died mysteriously just a few years later. And that's where it says Harding believed that the Ozarks Howler was an omen of death.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Well, there are a lot of folks that believe the Mothman is an omen of death.
Yeah, I've heard that as well too.
There's been some recent rash of sightings of the Mothman again.
Especially in Chicago.
Yep, one of my tinfoil hat wearing YouTube channels that I like to follow just did about a 35-minute show on it, and some of the video footage that got is pretty convincing.
Bizzle says Dogman or Howler, which is more terrifying? I'm probably going to go with the Howler. I think I've seen a Dogman and it scared the crap out of me, but I just from all descriptions of the Howler, I think that thing would just be absolutely terrifying. And that supposedly the scream of the Ozarks Howler is just absolutely blood curdling.
The thing with the Dogman is, most of us have seen werewolf films and things like that, so we kind of, a bipedal
can
dog
wrap your brain around it.
We can wrap our brain around it. But you see one of these devil dogs.
No kidding. Basically, a hellhound with horns.
Yeah.
Some of the descriptions describe it as being cat-like. Others describe it as being dog-like. But the ones that describe it as dog-like, saying it looks like a giant, like almost like a mastiff, but the size of a freaking bear. That is a big dog. That is a massive dog. Boo the Beagle said, wasn't Roosevelt a New York cop at one point? I don't know if he was a cop, but I know he was governor of New York.
That's very interesting. Yeah, when did you say the last sighting of the Howler was? 2019?
2019 is the most recent one, and there was one just outside of Rolla, Missouri, between where Ryan and JT live. I've actually been very close to that. I went to JT's house and hung out with Ryan and JT. I need to go back up there so we can do some episodes together and do some filming. But I was close to the site, but we didn't get to go to the site that day because Annette and I stopped there and hung out with them for a little while on our way to St. Louis to see our son. Brock Blades says, I think he was the police commissioner. Well, Roosevelt was one of those guys that had his hand in a lot of pies, and it doesn't surprise me that he was in law enforcement at some point because the dude was fearless by choice. I mean, starting out life as a frail kid who was severe asthma, who was essentially a shut-in that lived vicariously through books to becoming one of the most robust presidents that we have in history. Yeah, a larger than life figure. I mean, hell, the guy was shot while on his way to deliver a speech. Assassin tried to shoot him. He had his speech folded up in his jacket pocket. The bullet went through the speech and penetrated 3 inches into his chest. He shrugged it off and gave the speech, then went to the hospital.
Yeah, an 85-minute speech.
Yeah, not a small speech.
Yeah, his speech is in the presidential library, like the paper copies of it. And you can see the bullet holes right through it. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. He was hard as a barrel of woodpecker lips, that's for sure.
No kidding. Gary Lowe says, can you imagine 2 politicians coming out today admitting they have seen a cryptid?
I know. Not really.
Some of them, they would just write it off as a day at the office and give him some more ice cream.
Oh, we got a super chat. Missed it.
Sentinel.
Didn't even see it.
Thanks, Sentinel.
Miller.
Thanks, brother. Thank you, man.
Be right back.
All right, brother. Let's try to catch up with the comments. Brian from Monster Radio is here. Hey, bud. How you doing, man? Robert D says, so does it come into Missouri? Rolla is not on the border, or there are more than one out there? I think there are several. Allegedly, Daniel Boone supposedly killed one near Cuba, Missouri, which is pretty close to St. Louis. We don't know how big the range of the Ozarks Howler is, but the Ozarks Plateau is huge. It extends from just south of St. Louis to down to almost Louisiana and parts of eastern Texas. Steve?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think the Ozark Plateau basically goes all the way down through Arkansas and parts of Oklahoma, Texas, and northern Louisiana.
Yeah, here in Springfield, we're on one of the high points of it, or near the high point, which is part of the reason our weather behaves as weird as it does. But yeah, and even you look at like just the Mark Twain National Forest, how many tens of hundreds of square miles does that cover?
Well, the Mark Twain is 2.8 million acres of forest, and the Ozarks is, I think it's 1.7 million. Richard Cox says, did Warren Harding see the Howler? According to the article, yes. Warren Harding was one of the officers of the Concuncated Order of the Hoo-Hoo, and had seen the Howler himself. A.J. Congdon said he was appointed police commissioner in 1895. So this dude has been through a lot. Hey, Josh Turner's in the house. Yeah, Josh, we're going to be talking about the conference here in a bit. Need to get you on the show again too, brother. Open Coloring Book says New York Police Commissioner, good boxer, became an outdoorsman. If I'm right, he talked some Ivy Leaguers into the Army.
Yeah, the boxing, I think, was what got him interested in the whole fitness thing and got him strong when he was a young kid. So he became quite the pugilist.
Ryan from Monster Radio's got a good point. He said, why not? Reagan admitted to believing in UFOs. He also said it in public, so we weren't alone. Yeah. Hey, remember the famous speech Reagan made about what this world needed to unite? It was a common threat from the outside.
That'd do it.
Well, not wanting to see any of these things in public. Thank you very much.
Naoma says, I think Papa Bear and his friend Tom saw one, and they were in Illinois. I would love to hear that story. Papa Bear, shoot me a message and we'll set up a time. I can give you a call. Ryan from Monster Radio says, didn't Daniel Boone wound one? Allegedly, he shot one once and then ended up killing one near Cuba, Missouri. Supposedly, he had one stuffed and mounted, and had it in his collection when he died. But nobody knows what happened to the taxidermied corpse.
Smithsonian has it.
Yeah, if the Smithsonian got it, you can bet it's gone.
Yeah, they borrowed it.
Did the new report in 2019 mention the horns in them? Yes, they did. They described it as being like a big mastiff with horns. The one that was seen, I want to say it was somewhere around 2019 as well. There was actually a film. They caught one on a game cam down near Branson, somewhere between Branson and Forsyth. I want to find out the exact location and go down and talk to the people. I watched a documentary with them on it, but I know they live close by. And they had a wildlife expert from the Wild Animal Safari in Stratford come down and view the video. And he's like, I don't know what that is. He said, I'm familiar with animals from all over the world, and I don't know what that is. But the one that they captured, it didn't look that big. If it was a howler, it wasn't a very big one. It looked like a mid-sized dog, but it clearly looked like it had horns. And now it could have been a case where its ears were just particularly long, because I know there are some dogs that have really long ears. But the stills I saw from that video, it looked like horns.
That's interesting.
Robert D says, does it use the Merrimack River? I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, one thing we've discovered about cryptids is that they use riverways and lakes much like we use highways and interstates. I mean, that's how they get around. And if you look at the Google Map images of the Ozarks Plateau, you can look at the satellite version. Don't look at the one that's just an animated drawn version. Look at the actual satellite. You can see where the Mark Twain begins south of St. Louis, and you've basically got unbroken green, other than like where highways cross from there to essentially Louisiana. Huge section of wilderness. There's still places in the Ozarks National Forest and in the Mark Twain National Forest where I bet there probably hasn't been a human in 50 to 100 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I just was messing around on my phone here, and I saw a picture. It may have been that game cam picture you're talking about. It was taken from the local CBS station in Fort Smith, Arkansas, from one of their news broadcasts. I sent it to you through the co-host chat if you want to take a look at it.
Let me hunt it up.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have the host access y'all do, so I'm limited on what I can send.
Hold on. Let me save that and I'll upload it. That is the still from that was just what I was talking about.
Is that the one you're talking about?
That is exactly the one I was talking about. This
Well, the size of its paws, it might even be a pup or whatever, a young of one of these
Yeah, I
things
think
is
it's a
called.
young one. But that's a still from the game cam. You can see the ears and the horns.
Yeah.
Those are like freaking antelope horns.
They do, but that's obviously some sort of canine.
Yeah.
Well, it's a canine, but then the tail's not right. It's
Right.
bizarre.
The tails almost looks, other than it coming to a point instead of like a rounded tip, it almost looks like a cat's tail.
Huh. Did they scale that picture to see how big that thing was?
Not that I recall them saying.
I'd be curious. I mean,
Bowman called it a dogalope.
those things seem pretty horrific, man. And
supposedly the cry of one is like blood curdling, like will scare livestock, scare people. If you hear one out in the woods, you will know what it is because it sounds like nothing else. Ryan over at Monster Radio says, remember the Reverend who refused to give sermons because the church had imagery of the Howler in its mosaics? I don't recall that one. Ryan, if you've got the information on that one, shoot me the link on that. Josh is right. There's some really crazy stories come out of the Ozarks. One thing I mentioned before, and I'll go ahead and cover it again, is when you look geologically at mountain ranges across the planet, the Ozarks Plateau at one point in its life cycle was taller than the Rockies, but they are one of the oldest geological formations on the planet, one of the oldest mountain ranges on any continent, and that's why they've been beaten down over the eons. But at one point, they were bigger than the Rockies. So, this is a very old area, but full of legend and myth. A lot of great stuff here in the Ozarks. That's why, really the lore and the mystique of the Ozarks is what got me involved in all of this. Richie Harris says Mountain Monsters had the Howler. It was a hoot. I don't watch that show. I just don't. I think it's a little too cheesy. But that's just for me. Monster Radio says, ironically, the Howler might be a true cryptid, a type of animal we've yet to discover, far more cryptid-like than a dogman. I would agree with that. I mean, we definitely don't know what that is. I mean, I'll put that picture up again, let you guys take a look at it again. That is the best still I've seen. It almost looks like, well, looking at the color of its feet, body, it almost looks like a German Shepherd, but then it's got horns and there's no hair on the tail, and I don't know, but it looks canid to me. But those horns are what throws it off.
Well, what concerns me is the clarity of the tail and horns. You almost wonder if it's photoshopped. But
I kind of wondered that too.
That's what I was wondering too.
Yeah, I am not a photo editor, so I would have no idea how to actually legitimately identify it. But I'm like, unless the focus was just really weird and just happened to autofocus on the horns, it looks kind of weird. I was trying to see if I could find any more pictures.
Josh Turner says, I covered a story that I believe was the Howler. Haven't told the other couple of possibilities. Would love to get more reports. Yeah, me too. I need to go up and hang out with Ryan and JT because I really want to dig into this Howler thing with them. In fact, Ryan, if you're still listening, maybe me, you, and JT could go down to that town in Arkansas where they have the Order of the Hoo-Hoo. Go down and talk to them. I would definitely be interested in learning more from them. Ken Brock says, over at Brock Wade says, Steve's right, it is a little off. But the thing is that's not just the one still. There's video of it that they got from their trail cam, and that's what they showed on that documentary. But I would like, in order to be able to say definitively whether or not the image has been manipulated, we would need the first generation. This is probably 8th, 9th generation floating around the internet image. So being able to look at the base image itself, probably all but impossible.
I just sent you an artist rendering of one, and it's the stuff of nightmares. Send it on the same chat.
Okay.
You're saying cross between.
I used that in the thumbnail.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, that's actually in the thumbnail for the episode. I will go ahead and put that up though. Because I'm telling you, if I ran across this in the woods, that would definitely be a brown pants moment.
Hell no.
Yeah.
And that's actually that one right there is the image I drew when I was creating the description of the Ozark Howler. I didn't draw this, but that I brought to mind when I described the Ozarks Howler in Lakeview Man Beast of Blunk Road.
Yeah.
And there's a howler sighting out near Blunk Road. That's why I chose that area.
Yeah, that would be full on
hair brown pants. Yep, I would definitely de-ask the area post haste.
Yeah, I'm with 3D Havoc. Yeah, forget the order of the hoo-hoo. Time to go pew-pew with that thing. I'd be the order of the pew-pew.
But same thing with like hunting a bear. I would be afraid that I would hit it with something that would just piss it off. I mean, there was that case of that park ranger in Yellowstone that ended up killing that grizzly bear that ate that hiker. And when they did the necropsy on the bear, it had slugs from a .38 caliber revolver embedded in its breastbone, and the .38 that the guy had shot it with was in its stomach with the remains of the guy.
Nice.
So the .38 didn't even do anything but piss it off. And people talk about, how I know I shot it, especially with cryptids. I know I hit it. Well, this grizzly bear's was firsthand proof. You don't have enough gun to punch it. If you're going to shoot at a grizzly bear, especially a 14-foot, 1,100-pound grizzly bear, if you're going to shoot at it with a .38 caliber revolver, save one bullet for you.
Yeah. I bet some 50.
And in fact, go ahead and take a file and take that front side off. That way you don't chip a tooth.
Yeah, or it don't hurt when it gets rammed up your butt.
That's right.
Yeah. 50 BMG with a little API do the business. Or Rolfus round.
Right. So we've got Teddy Roosevelt. We know for a fact he was aware of cryptids because of the order of the hoo-hoo. We know for a fact he was aware of cryptids. We know we suspect heavily, and again I will say heavily suspect, but I believe it, that Teddy Roosevelt was Bauman. So he was in a camp where a Bigfoot killed his partner. Whether or not that is true or not, we'll never know for sure. But I firmly believe it. To me, it makes the most sense, especially when you read the full Bowman incident and see the level of detail in the reporting. It's not like somebody just told him a story. Yeah, we went up in this valley and this thing killed my partner. The level of detail is intense. So there we go. We've got proof that he was aware of cryptids. We think for certain. Well, I leaned heavily toward him having actually firsthand encountered one that killed his partner, and then later he founds the National Park Service. So when you overlay the National Park Service with the missing 411s, we're still having massive amounts of people going missing. And back in the 1800s, people went missing all the time, and nobody did anything about it. We didn't keep records of it.
Yeah, there ain't no telling how many remains are out there in the forest.
No kidding.
Yeah, well, just recently here, they found remains of a couple of people. Some mushroom hunters found some folks that were just apparently murdered, because they were, hastily buried under something, and this kind of stuff, skeletal remains. I'm like, a lot of crazy stuff could happen in the national forests.
I hope there wasn't any mushrooms growing out of them. That'd be nasty. Yeah, I'd be curious to know about the Bowman Roosevelt correlation there.
To me, it makes absolute sense.
Yeah, I've never really thought about it like that till you mentioned it tonight, and I was like, yeah, it does make sense because, like Steve said, the level of detail. If you're retelling somebody's story, unless you were there, you can't really tell it like you were there, Right. And that dude was telling it like that's firsthand.
Old Spirit Art says Teddy wasn't the type for whimsy, and he wasn't a fool either. Makes you wonder what he knew. The Wikipedia page of the concatenated order of the hoo-hoo Says the International Concatenated Order of the Who is Incorporated is a fraternal and service organization whose members are involved in the forest products industry. Who has members in the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, and South Africa. It was the organization was founded on January 21st, 1892 in Gurdon, Arkansas, by B. Arthur Johnson, who was the editor of the Timberman of Chicago. William Eddie Barnes, the editor of the St. Louis Lumberman. George Washington Schwartz of Vandalia Railroad in St. Louis. A. Strauss of Malvern Lumber Company, Malvern, Arkansas. George Kimball Smith of the Southern Lumber Manufacturers Association, and William Starr Mitchell, business manager of the Arkansas Democrat of Little Rock. Those were the guys who founded it.
Interesting assortment of individuals.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder why lumbermen would have a vested interest in having a national forest made, because you can't log it.
Right. It seems a little counterintuitive for them, doesn't it?
Yeah. These are guys that profited from the logging industry and from forest related products. Why would they have somebody help them create the national forest system where places where they can't log?
Well, and even the railroad folks, the national parks, hinder industry because, there's so many regulations on, certain things you can't do there, cell phone towers, et cetera, et cetera.
Monster Radio says, according to legend, the cat/howler was almost our national animal. Roosevelt wanted to replace the eagle. Wow. I didn't know that. Penny Van says, so the government could have secret mining and other suspect activities. Well, yeah, we know they do that anyway. Gary Lowe says, exactly, DA, other than to hide or cover up something. If these guys got into conservation and the creation of national forests, there was a reason. These guys, these are guys that made their fortunes off the lumber industry. For the bulk, for the majority of them, they mentioned that they were part of definitely part of the lumber industry. So, what compels somebody who makes their living off cutting old growth timber? What's to make them cordon off entire areas of old growth timber that can't be touched now? Richie Harris says, I wouldn't want to repair cell towers in the Ozarks.
Truth.
General Dalton says, make national forests so they could get the select cutting later as well as preserve old growth timber. Yeah, maybe to an extent, but as far as I know, they just don't allow logging in the national forest. I know they don't around here. They do controlled burns once in a while, which is why we don't have wildfires like the left coast does. But they have controlled burns, so it burns off all the undergrowth, and we don't get wildfires. Ryan over at Monster Radio says, makes me wonder if Roosevelt that added Bigfoot to some of our military survival guides. Very well could have been. Very easily could have been.
I'm picturing like those little military guides. You may know what they're called, Doc, because of the Air Force connection, but like the little pamphlets that show like the silhouette of airplanes. Like, oh, that's a
recognition guides,
whatever. Recognition guides. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't serve, guys. I'm an idiot. But to imagine something like that with like the cryptids on it, if you're looking through like a scope, that one's a howler, that's a Bigfoot, you may engage this, run from this.
Yeah.
Right.
Fly in the Sky 777 says Lewis and Clark met Bigfoot. Yeah, there are entire sections of Lewis and Clark's journal that are still not publicly available.
That's interesting.
So Lewis and Clark had Bigfoot encounter. To me, that just makes absolutely perfect sense why Roosevelt was such a hard charger for creating the National Park Service. we cordoned off. What is it? What have we checked? Was it 88 million acres of national parks land across the U.S.?
Man, don't make me lie, man.
I think it was 88 or 89 million acres of national park land that are still we have limited access to today.
85 million acres.
85. I mean, it was 80 something.
Yeah. 424 individual units covering more than 85 million acres in all 50 states, District of Columbia, and U.S. territories.
Penny Van says, these memes of animals with funny names like a snake is a danger noodle. Need a list of funny names for cryptids.
Seriously. Gotta think. So let's ask the gallery, what would y'all call a howler?
Yeah, what would we call a howler? It's got to be better than hoo-hoo.
Well, I mean, we've got a clever bunch of folks that are in our chat every show. I'd be curious. Screaming, there you go.
The screaming demon.
Well, it is known for its scream.
Yeah.
The poo-poo perpetrator.
Robert D says the howler punky monkey. Mrs. Chef Yoda says the youper.
Mm-hmm.
Penny Van says bad puppy.
Hoo-hoo
dog.
Yeah, I saw one of those memes, and they were referred to a copperhead as a nope rope.
Yeah.
Danger noodle.
That's right.
Danger noodle.
Satan's ring.
Growly, bitey, horned furball. Miss Linnea, I like that one. But when you go back and look, let me find it. I know I've got it still in here. At this map. Now, the top map is the missing 411 clusters. And most of those are in and around major national parks. And then you look at the lower map, and that's cave systems. This isn't a coincidence. It's not accidental. And he cordoned off national park areas around major cave systems. You can't say any of that was accidental.
Oh, I was talking about that in class today. Some of the folks I was telling them about the show.
When you talk about the cave system, I can't help but thinking about the characters in H.G. Wells' Time Machine, or the Morlocks. The
Morlocks
that lived under the ground and attack those above.
Yeah. Well, if our theory is correct and wood knocks are actually a form of echolocation, it could go a long way to prove that these things are subterranean. Why they're so hard to find during the day.
That's true. That's a good theory.
Missouri's a cave state. I mean, we are riddled with them. Mrs. Chef Yoda had a good question. So do you think the majority of missing people in 411 are because of Bigfoot or Dogman? I think it's a good possibility because the missing 411 cases do not cover all missing people in national parks. They cover only the ones that went missing under a very specific set of circumstances. I think it's a very high likelihood that it's predation of some sort. Could it be cryptids? Yes. Could it be human predation? Possibly. And even in some cases, some people think it might be alien predation. Whatever it is, there's a very specific set of circumstances that have to be made to make the missing 411s. And they, a lot of times that they have some sort of disability. They're either very old or very, very young. Sometimes a lot of the cases, people who went missing were on the autism spectrum. And again, this is something we would see in the animal kingdom. A predator is going to go after what they deem to be the easiest target. Much like when wolves would hunt buffalo, they'll single out the weakest member of the herd, the slowest, the oldest, and that's the one they would kill. So I think I don't think we can say definitively that 100% of the missing 411 cases are cryptid related, but I think even if a third of them are, it's still a staggering amount of people who've gone missing at the hand of cryptids. William Nighthawk says coordinate the national parks with caves and ley lines. I don't know if I've got a map of ley lines. Let me see if I can find a ley line map. I've got one, but I'm not sure how much it's. Let me get this uploaded. I'll let all y'all be the judge. Let me get this uploaded, and we'll let you guys. Where did it go? Come on now.
Yeah, we waited 56 minutes without a technical difficulty. We're due for one.
Yeah, no kidding. There we go. Where did that go? It was there for a second. I cannot get this image to save. Hold on, let me find a different one. For some weird reason, it would save and then it would disappear.
Now, a ley line is what exactly now? Just so we're all on the same page.
Ley
lines. Go ahead, Doc.
Ley lines are straight alignments drawn between various historic structures and prominent landmarks. The idea was developed in early 20th century Europe, with ley line believers arguing that these alignments were recognized by ancient societies that deliberately erected structures along them. Since the 60s, members of the Earth Mysteries movement and other esoteric traditions have commonly believed that such ley lines demarcate Earth energies and serve as guides for alien spacecraft. Archaeologists and scientists regard ley lines as an example of pseudo-archaeology and pseudoscience.
Gotcha.
Well, so is cryptozoology, so it's considered a pseudoscience. Yep. Okay, so here's the missing 411 map and the caves. Okay. Let everybody get a good look at that, and I will bring the ley lines map. And I'm not sure how good this is going to link up, but kind of fix a point in your head where most of those sightings are, and then take a look at those.
Quite a few in the heart of the U.S. where you saw that big concentration.
There's a big convergence down, looks like near the what is that, Arizona-Mexico border. And then another big one up in, is that British Columbia?
Yeah. Pretty good one there in Quebec,
big convergence in Alaska.
Huge convergence in Alaska. Which is really funny considering, if you look at the low population density there, you can't imagine that many ancient peoples would be building that many structures there. I mean, it's not exactly hospitable.
Little Bear Running says Indiana had rumors of caves being blasted shut northeast of Indianapolis. I can't recall the name of the park or county it's in, supposedly because of Squatch that were aggressive people eaters. That happened, something similar to that happened here in Missouri. If you look it up on the Missouri Conservation website, they have a whole different story. But I knew about this when it was happening. So this is not the story that the Missouri Department of Conservation is putting out is not what really happened. There was a family up near where I lived in Macleod County, and this was out in the sticks, out toward out toward Grove Springs, between Lebanon and Grove Springs, called the Smittle family. And the Smittles discovered a very large cave on their land, and the family had owned this land for a long time. Well, a lot of weird things were happening in and around that area. The Missouri Department of Conservation came in and said, well, there's an endangered species of brown bat that lives in this cave. And they basically, eminent domain, took the Smittles land. And you still only get limited access. And let me pull up what they did to this cave. because you're not going to tell me this was for a bat. Where's that? There we go. This is what they did to this cave, and this cave is huge. When you could have driven a vehicle into the front of this cave. The Missouri Department of Conservation came in, and they did this to that cave. You can see a person in there for scale. That's above and beyond what you'd need to keep a person out. A chain link fence would keep a person out. You would only need a 6-foot chain link fence with razor wire at the top to keep a person out. That is heavy steel that has been blasted and concreted into the rock wall of that cave with massive steel all the way up. I mean, that thing's got to be 20 feet tall or bigger. There's no way that's designed to just keep people out of that cave.
Mm-mm. That screams, I said stay out, damn it.
Yeah. And that happened here in Missouri. You can find it on the Missouri Department of Conservation. Look up Smittle Cave, Smittle. The version of the story they tell is basically, we discovered this species of bat, and the Smittle family donated the land so we could preserve it. That's not what happened. They were driven off that land. And if you're just trying to preserve a bat, you don't go to that length. There is no reason at all you would put in that heavy of a grading, because you can't get a vehicle up there. It's a pretty good hike from where you can park your vehicle to where the mouth of that cave is. So it's not like you could get a vehicle up there that you could pull a chain link fence down. They could have put in a chain link fence, a 6 to 8 foot chain link fence, and put concertina wire on the top, and that would have been perfect to keep people out. But that's not what they're doing here. This is not only designed to keep. Go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say at its highest point, that's like 25 feet tall. And
easily.
Assuming that's a normal sized man, those bars are 6 inches in diameter.
Right.
4 inches anyway.
Yeah, these are massive. You don't need that to keep a person out. I mean, hell, a fence made of welded together rebar that was 5-6 feet tall and had concertina wire would have kept a person out. Chain link, if it was put in place and anchored in place solidly, would have kept a person out. It's not like you could get a vehicle up there to hook onto the chain link fence and yank it down. This is designed for something far more powerful than a person. This is incredibly massive. Now, there's room at the top for the bats to get in and out, but there are bats in every cave in Missouri. I can't understand how they would say this one particular cave was the only place that this endangered species of bats live, because there are caves everywhere in Missouri.
So Lene is asking us, so what kind of weird stuff happened to the family prior to the imminent domaining of this cave?
Well, there was a lot of livestock deaths in the area. There were reports of hunters going missing and hikers going missing. That area is just, it's thick, deep Ozarks woods. People would have problems with things coming around their house at night. And I never got a chance to talk to the Smittles personally, but I did know a friend of theirs, mutual friend, who basically told me that the Smittles were given no choice about selling their land. And I at one time dated a girl that lived out close to that place, so I was out there a lot. Plus, that was an area where we used to go cave crawling. I was in a cave crawling club before they shut that cave down, and a bunch of us from high school would go out to these local caves. There's one not too far from there. They call Rattlesnake Springs. We would hit these caves and go exploring. That's back when I was far slimmer and probably 100 pounds lighter and much more limber young man. But we would go crawl through all these caves. We were at a caving club, which was sponsored by one of our teachers from high school, a guy named Bob Harding. So Bob would take us to caves all over the state, and Smittle was one of those ones that we got into. And there's more than one cave opening for the Smittle for that big cave. There's a much smaller one about a quarter mile away from that one. And that one is completely covered. It's not like they're leaving spots for the bats to get in and out. There are no pictures of the smaller opening. The smaller opening has that big. Well, I'll put it back up again. The smaller cave has this big, heavy construction, but it covers the entire thing. It's it's probably 10 to 12 feet tall, maybe that much across. It's way smaller than this. This, when it was open, you could have driven a large truck into it. But to me, again, this says they didn't want something in there, or they didn't want it getting back in there, because that's kind of overkill the way they've got the leaned out portion. Obviously we wouldn't want anything climbing it, but again, if they were just trying to keep people out, a 6 or 8 foot chain link fence with concertina wire would keep people out.
Yeah, it looks like it's got spikes on it even.
I haven't been up there since they put that in. This picture was taken and posted to a website I know that after they put that in. They had not put that in. They had chain link over it when I first started going up to Smittle. But you would also, if you got up there, conservation would show up and run you out of there. But we did get back in there a couple of times, and it's a really neat cave, and I didn't see a whole lot of bats in it. And it goes back. I don't know. We never did go all the way to the back of it. There was a number of caves that we went all the way as far back in as we could, but we never did find the back of this one. But then, now they've got this built in, and you can see on the left-hand side, there's kind of looks like a metal box on the left-hand side, kind of a white-colored box.
Yeah.
That is actually the locking mechanism for a panel door. And that whole panel there that's on opens. That is way bigger than a human would need. If that was only there to allow access for park rangers or for people who are going, geologists who are going back in the cave, it is massive compared to an opening you would need for a person. I mean, you can see the size of the dude down there.
Yeah.
That is not a normal sized door.
I mean, if that dude's roughly 6 foot tall, that thing's another 6 foot above there. That thing's roughly about 12 foot high.
Right. And that's right here in the Ozarks.
That's interesting.
Almost if Bigfoot forgets the code to his front door, does he call?
Yeah, I'm totally picturing Bigfoot walking up with like a key fob, blip, blip. Or a cell phone. It's got one of the smart locks. You got called
Ryan.
there, Doc.
Oh, Brock, Ken.
What do you say?
If he's Doc's height, the fence is 8 feet tall. That's fact. That's a fact.
That's hilarious. Ryan from Monster Radio says if that were meant to keep something in, they'd have laid concrete. Digging under the gate is something they would consider, and there would be no openings.
I mean, I wonder if that's just to keep people out of there, so whatever in there, they don't go in there and get it.
Well, something the size of a Bigfoot wouldn't have too much trouble scaling that.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, there's enough room for them to get in and out, but they're trying to keep people like us from becoming a statistic.
Yeah,
I think we need to go down there with a big slingshot and just launch Doc in there and have him check it out for us.
I'll do it.
Shai says so. DA was striving for a Darwin Award since he was young. Yeah, me and you've seen him in chat before. Chris McGee, Bob Sides, a bunch of my buddies. We would all go up to these caves. Fred Johnson. There was a whole bunch of us from my high school. In fact, we had a really interesting time at a cave that they call Pig Demon Cave, which is out not far from where my Uncle Buddy lived. It's out near Eldridge, Missouri. And the cave was at one point going to be opened for the public tours. They'd strung lighting and everything, and then all of a sudden they abandoned that idea. You can go, if you get back in there, you can still see the old junction boxes and rusted out conduits and stuff where they tried to put lighting in there. But when you got to go up to the owner's house to get permission to go back in and sign out of the cave, so he knows who's in there and who's not. We went up, and on the wall of this guy's house is this mural. It's like 14, 15 feet tall. And if Chris is listening, he can attest to this. This massive pig on its hind legs with bat wings, and it's standing on a bunch of skulls and stuff. And that gives the name the cave its name. They call it Pig Demon Cave. And I jokingly asked the guy, I'm like, "Hey, we're not going to run into that thing while we're in there, are we?" And he goes, "You better hope you don't." Just that seriously. Matter of fact, wasn't messing with me. Wasn't joking. Wasn't the slightest bit impressed by my attempt at humor. He just looked at me and goes, "Better hope you don't." And he said, "I don't care, you boys going down there. You take your own light sources. You take your chances. You sign in the book when you go down there, and you come back up here and you sign out. Because if you don't sign out by morning, I'm sending out to send somebody out looking for you." But he wouldn't go with us.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole lot of nope.
I concur, sir.
Joe Parker says, "Looks like they left it open for something to feed and to go back in." Yeah, Monster Radio's right. I don't think a drone would get back in there very far. You could probably send one line of sight. If you were standing at the mouth of Smittle Cave, you could probably send one over the gate and back as far as you could see it, but you'd have to bring it right back because once it rounded a corner, it would just lose signal and drop.
Well, that and
Chai says, "Unfortunately, Doc's qualified for a tunnel rat."
You know, unfortunately, if it's a limestone cave, there's going to be a lot of magnetic interference too from all the ionized water.
You know, Steve, we should hop in the cryptid exploration vehicle of yours, and since you've got 5G, we should hop in your vehicle and go out to Smittle Cave and get some pictures.
That would be neat. I always like caves.
We could check it out, and it's not far from the ghost town of Orla, Missouri. We should go down to Orla and get some pictures too. As they said, that place is haunted as hell.
I'll stay out in the truck and man the radios.
My mother was born in Orla, and I grew up hearing the stories. In fact, the farmhouse she grew up in is still out there. I would have to get permission from the people that own the land now to go back there, but the house is still there. The people that own the land store hay in it.
You know, Doc, you need to put together a special kit for idiots that go into these places. You know, it needs to have all the important stuff in it, like sage and holy water and whatever else it may take.
I'll put a strap in there you can wrap around the legs and wrap around your head and yank it real tight so you can bend over and kiss your ass goodbye.
Make sure you put a rosary.
Yeah.
Yeah, only American made.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of the Dark Angel, just have like a pig demon on the packaging, you know.
Seriously, I could take us right to Pig Demon Cave. If nothing else, I'd like to get pictures of that mural.
Yeah.
Now, that's a different area. That's a pretty fair piece from Smittle. I mean, it's the opposite side of Lebanon from it. So they're probably 30, 40 miles apart.
Yeah, that place sounds pretty terrifying to me, man. I ain't gonna lie.
Well, that's the cave that me and Fred Johnson and somebody else heard something in the cave farther back, like it was coming towards us. And then we were would you look at the time?
Yep.
We didn't know if it was a bear or what was back there, but we could hear something coming toward us in the dark. And we're like, "Hey, this would probably be a good time to get the hell out of here."
Yeah.
Yeah. GTFO, my friends. GTFO.
No kidding. In fact, I think it was the last time I went in that cave.
Well, if you had any sense, it is.
Ken Brock says, "Put some seasoning in that kit so Bigfoot doesn't have to eat bland food."
Some Tony Saturates.
Tony Saturates likes it spicy. William Nighthawk says, "I'm sure Anthony would lend you guys some of his Crayola crayons to use for marking the walls so you don't get lost." John Wayne Gates says, one of my old buddies was a true badass, only stood 5'4", wore size 4 shoes, but he was a tunnel rat in Vietnam.
Guy was a war
those
hobbit.
guys were, yeah,
That's awesome.
battle hobbit. So, this kind of ties in with what we were talking about with Teddy Roosevelt. This is, granted, that's not a state, that's not a national park. That was conservation, basically eminent domaining that land and turning it into a state park. And 83.4 million or 84.3 million acres does not include state parks. That is just national parks.
Wow. That's a lot of land.
That is a lot of land that's put aside. And the Smittle family got kicked off that land in the 80s.
Really?
Yeah, that's not something that was 100 years ago. That was in my lifetime. Kevin Piercy was the kid, the one who first heard of Smittle Cave, and me and him and several others went out there and looked around. I was back in the days when I had my old '74 Ford pickup with a 3-speed on the column. That was the caving truck, man. We would load everybody and a bunch of equipment in the back of that thing, and we'd hit everywhere.
3 on the tree.
Yep, 3 on a tree. I miss that truck. So what do you think? What do you think that they're trying to keep out of Smittle Cave? You think that could be a howler?
Yeah.
Well, somebody else in the chat had posted, I'm trying to understand the logic of trying to keep a cryptid out of it. I'm honestly of the opinion of somebody else that was on here that they're trying to keep us out of it to keep us from being a casualty. Endangered bats my ass.
But again, you look at that. That's overkill if you're wanting to keep a person out. Yeah, you could have kept people out of there with a chain link fence with concertina wire.
I don't know.
Right.
Because the place is regularly patrolled.
I wonder if that's something you could get a Freedom of Information Act to get more information about.
Well, like I said, on the website, they tell a whole different story. I guarantee the original story is either buried or gone. The Smittle family did not voluntarily give up that land. But that's the kiss and made up version of the story that's on the Missouri Department of Conservation website. That the rare and endangered species of brown bat was discovered and the Smittle family donated land for conservation effort. No, they fought that in court for years.
Interesting.
Things that make you go,
Well, I definitely don't think it was bats,
Yeah, I don't either. Let me see if I can find a picture of that cave before they closed it up.
Well, Robbie just said it's definitely meant for something big, and I agree. I mean, if it's a 2-mile cave, I mean, that's crazy. I wonder, is there any kind of last time you were there? When was the last time you were there, DA?
Oh God, I think the last time I was there was probably 91 or 92.
Okay, I'm
And
wondering.
I got chased out of there by conservation people.
I've seen something. I saw something here in the comments on the chat, and it's a good point. Where I wonder.
This is the cave before they sealed it.
I wonder if they got some surveillance cameras around there.
They probably do.
Game cams, anything, camouflage, stuff like that. They probably do.
That was before they sealed it.
That's a big ass cave, son.
Yeah, like I said, if you could get a vehicle up there, you could drive a good sized truck in there, probably a semi. I mean, hell, judging by the size of that one dude, you could easily drive something the size of a freaking Hemet back there.
Yeah, that's a big cave, son.
That is a big cave. And I don't buy for a second that they put that in there to protect brown bats.
No.
Shoot a door that big, a damn dragon could fly out of it.
I mean, bats are going to be up on the top of the cave anyhow. They're going to be on the ceiling.
Right. And if it's a 20-foot tall cave, you're not going to really mess with them that much.
Yeah, it ain't like they're going to be sitting around there knitting and drinking tea,
Right.
Well, there's a cave here just north of Springfield that supposedly has some endangered bat species that live in. You can take tours of the damn thing. Yeah, they've got a locked door.
Drive-through tours.
Right.
Well, no, this is a different one I'm thinking of. This is
Oh, okay. I thought you were thinking of was that Crystal Cave?
No, this one's just like around like Fairgrove. I've been out there, but it's been years and years and years. But it's got like a door with like a wrought iron gate on a lock, and there's a little kiosk where the person runs a place, and you pay your little fee and you sign your little waiver, and they unlock the cave and you get to go through it. And they're like, there's some endangered bats, don't fuck with them. They're like, okay, I'll leave the bat alone.
Go check that out. Crystal Cave is out toward Fairgrove, and you actually ride through that cave.
Well, this one I walked through. It's been 20. I was married to my first wife, so it's been like 20, 25 years ago.
When I worked security down at Silver Dollar City, Marvel Cave is down there, and that is a massive cave, and they still haven't explored all of that cave. I mean, it is massive. They don't know how far it goes. They know it goes a long ways, and they take daily public tours through that. And I was armed security in that park, and we were forbidden from going in there after dark, no matter what we heard.
Weird.
Yeah, they cited air quality concerns. If it was fine to take tours through the day, all day long, tours of like 20, 25 people, if it was fine for 20, 25 people at a time to go through every hour, all day long, there was no air concerns for us going down there at night.
Yeah, well, why does the air suddenly get bad at night?
Right. We were forbidden from going in there. No matter what we heard coming from that cave, we were forbidden.
That's crazy, man.
We were park's armed security, and I have heard noises coming from that cave. I don't know what the hell it was, but it was like rock clacking on rock kind of thing. It could have been stuff falling, but I would walk by that entrance on my rounds and hear crack from inside the cave. And the first time I heard it, I pulled my flashlight out and started in. And my boss is like, no, we can't go in there. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, I just heard something. He goes, no, we are not allowed to go in there after dark. He basically broke it down. He said that the reason they say we can't go in there is because the air quality is bad, but we're not allowed to go in there no matter what we hear. He said, we just report it the next day that we heard something. I'm like, oh, so if there's an intruder down there, just reporting it the next day to the supervisor is going to really help a lot. Yeah, it was one that he's like, wait, he said, I've been scratching my head at it for a while. You're never going to figure it out. That's just the rule. We are not allowed to go down there no matter what we hear. Oh, I'm way behind on comments. Papa Bear says, so according to the Missouri Department of Conservation, the brown bat is now widely distributed throughout Missouri. Then why did they take the Smittle's land?
Yeah,
and weird. Why is that cave still sealed off if it's not endangered? If it's widely distributed throughout Missouri, why is that one cave still sealed?
Yeah.
That is odd.
Pyromedic says they fenced off a cave with a razor wire and threats of prison time in Delaware County in Oklahoma, saying it was for the short-eared bat. There are over 600 documented caves in this county alone. That one guy says, does the cave ever get covered in water from flash floods? There is a creek that comes out of the cave, and the most water I've ever seen out of that, and we went down there quite a few times, but even during the big flooding we had in 86 and 87, there wasn't a whole lot of water coming out of that cave. I mean, there was quite a bit, but not enough to warrant 25 feet of steel grating.
Right. With spikes.
With spikes. Christy Crawford says, DA asked Jessica Jones a remote. That's a good idea. Next time I talk to Jessica, I'm going to mention that. Sharon Lane says there's been sightings of thunderbirds in the Ozarks. That's true. There have been. I don't know anybody personally who's had a thunderbird sighting, but I've read quite a few accounts. But I haven't ever talked to somebody firsthand who's had one.
That tilted area on that gate would give them a way to fly in and out.
Yeah. Boys, I'm still at a loss on what that's for. I found another image. This is the same gating from a different angle. Let me put that one up too. This is that same entrance of the cave, but from a slightly different angle. Kind of gives you a pretty good view of how big those freaking bars are. According to this, Smittle Cave is the 5th largest cave in the state of Missouri.
It's a big damn cave.
That is not to keep people out. That, to me, that just makes no sense. Because even if it was quote unquote to keep people out, a person with a grappling hook and a rope could still get in there. Hell, you wouldn't even really need that. I mean, if you look at the other angle, those are wide enough apart. You could climb them and then swing over onto that grating and climb down the other side. So this really wouldn't keep a person out if they really wanted in there. But it's just so freaking massive. Anything with hands could scale that. What do you think, Steve?
I can't piece it all together. It's making me more and more curious. I've always liked caves. Somebody was posting a little further up the chat. There's a place that they got locked access for tours, but I don't know if they were talking about Smittle Cave or some other cave that we were discussing earlier in the chat.
Mrs. Moon says Missouri Department of Conservation says they have a gate with a lock into that cave, and they do give tours during certain times of the year. I wonder if they only do it at times of year when they know certain large predators aren't in the area.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe so.
Sharon Lane has a good point. There's places in the Ozarks they think no man has ever been, and I would agree with that. There are certainly areas of the Mark Twain that probably haven't seen human traffic since the settlers came through. Spy in the Sky says, my family found the Alabaster Cave in northwest Oklahoma before it became a park, and they walked and climbed almost 2 miles. That's a big cave.
No.
No.
I think I'll just stay my ass outside the cave.
I see the link, but Kelly, I can't open it, unfortunately. And it won't let me copy and paste it. James Montgomery sponsored the channel. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. Sharon Lane says you will not get a straight answer out of the Missouri Department of Conservation. That is a fact. In 1985, my cousin John and I he raised coon dogs. We were hunting raccoons on his family's land out on East 32. Yeah, out on East 32 outside of Lebanon. And we were pretty far back there, and it was late. It was just the two of us. We were teenagers. And we heard one of his coon dogs go to barking like he'd treed something. And we start heading for it because it was a good dog. It was a hunting champion. It had won awards. And then we heard a scream, and we both knew it was a mountain lion scream. It was a panther scream. And then we heard the dog go to raising bloody hell, bellowing and screaming. And we were carrying 22 magnums for raccoons. We were not geared for hunting anything as big as a freaking mountain lion. But when we lit up the area, there was a black panther, as black as the freaking dead of night, killing that dog, and it did kill it. We scared the thing off. John fired a couple rounds in the air, and I kept my rifle aimed at it, but I'm pretty sure we wouldn't have killed it, not with a 22 Magnum unless I was a really lucky shot. and it turned and bounded off. And we told the Missouri Department of Conservation the next day what we had saw. And he looked us in the eye and said, no, there are no black panthers in Missouri. You just saw a regular cougar. We're like, we're telling you, we saw a completely black mountain lion jump on this dog and kill it. Oh, no, it couldn't have been a black mountain lion. I'm like, dude, you were telling us to our face we didn't see what we saw.
Well, yeah. You idiot. Yeah.
We could not ever get him to admit it. And then now people are catching black mountain lions crossing. There have been, Steve, wasn't it down by Rogersville, a couple a black mountain lion with its cubs crossed the highway just about a year ago?
Mm-hmm.
I know it was during the lockdown.
I mean, genetically, black mountain lions or black panthers are the same species as a cougar mountain lion. They just are black
They're
colored.
just melanistic.
Yeah, melanistic.
And I don't understand what the big deal about admitting they're there. It's just a melanistic mountain lion. I mean, we already knew mountain lions were here.
Oh no. Let's play the devil's advocate and dig the tinfoil hat out here for a while. What if it wasn't a black mountain lion? It was something else. And your mind wasn't thinking anything but mountain lion, let's say it is some kind of a cryptid type thing that they don't.
Some people describe the Ozarks Howler as being cat-like, but I don't remember seeing horns. I remember it looked very much like a big monster cat. I would say the thing probably weighed every bit of 200 pounds. And this dog was no small dog. It was a red bone hound, and it killed that thing like it was nothing.
Well, it's funny because in 1995, when I was a freshman in college, I was, taking this biology course, and the TA in our course was working on his master's, and he was doing some kind of research into mountain lions. And I had told him about this mountain lion I had seen going through the national forest there along Highway 8, just outside of Steelville. And he's like, "Well, there's no way you saw that there." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Well, there's no mountain lions in Missouri." And this is 95.
Okay.
And I'm like, it was a juvenile mountain lion.
You were an Eagle Scout, so it's not like you weren't exposed to nature before.
Well, exactly. I spend most of my time in the woods. I wasn't a hunter, but other than that, I was, out in the woods a lot. And it's like, yeah, but dude, he's working on his master's, and it's so funny because we've officially acknowledged mountain lions in Missouri now for years. So what was that? I'm trying to think of the movie where the quote comes from. It's from Men in Black. People were sure the Earth was flat. People were sure the Earth was the center of the universe. People were sure there are no mountain lions in Missouri. You're sure until you're proven wrong.
Right. Until you come face to face with something, you can deny it all you want. But up until that point, I'd heard the stories about black cats in Missouri, and I thought they were just hunters' tales. I'd heard them at deer camp. I'd heard them while camping around the campfire. I'd heard them from other kids at school that so and so says they saw a black panther, and I didn't put a whole lot of stock into it until John and I ran up on that one that was killing his dog. And that's a sight you don't forget. And it's not like we saw a blur of movement as it killed the dog and ran off. It was in the process of killing that dog when we came running up. And John had to fire a couple of shots into the air to even get it to stop mauling the dog. And it turned toward us and hunkered like it was getting ready to jump, and I was ready to shoot. And that was a .22 Magnum loaded with hollow points. I don't know that would have killed it, but I was going to give it everything I had. Yeah. And I was aiming at its head. And I was hoping, the hollow point did enough damage to at least scare it off. And it looked at us, and John, after he put a couple rounds in the air, he aimed at it too, and it looked at us, and it kind of glanced over toward the wood line and was gone. But it's not like we saw it for 4 or 5 seconds. We saw that thing for probably 2 minutes while it finished killing that dog. Mm-hmm. And the dog didn't die. John shot it because its guts were out, and it was laying there. I mean, you don't forget that sound. Mm-mm. And he put the dog down. He's like, he said, even if we could get him to the vet, I don't think he'd live long enough for us to get him back to the house.
I mean, I know for a fact that my grandpa and my uncles down in the Pearl River Swamp down in Picayune, Mississippi, close to Slidell, Louisiana. They saw black panthers down there several times, and that's where they kept a good hold on their dogs.
Yeah. I've seen regular mountain lions a couple of times. I saw that one walking on the side of the road, and just this past year, I saw a female with a couple of cubs. I guess you call them cubs, kits, whatever the baby mountain lions are called. Walk along that same stretch of road, and I always see them right around sunset, probably when they're getting out to start hunting. And yeah. There's a reason I always travel armed in case my car breaks down.
Miss Lene says, for decades, we've had stories of large cats that are bipedal in southern Illinois. I used to have the stories bookmarked, but the stories are gone now. Yeah, funny thing about that, a lot of the sites I used to peruse to find Bigfoot sightings in this area, gone now. I mean, the whole site. I have a bunch of them written in a book, and you can put in the site address, and it's like 404 error not found. I mean, this entire site's gone. Robert D says old timers were telling about black cats in the late 70s. Yeah, I heard those stories. I mean, I've hunted and fished the Ozarks since I was old enough to hold a fishing pole, and I heard those stories. I heard them from my brothers and sisters. I heard them from my cousins, aunts and uncles. Anybody that spent time in the woods, has got a Black Panther story at some point. But and it was much like a lot of other stories, like people catching a 60-pound catfish. You hear those stories and you're like, yeah, I bet it was probably more like 10 pounds. But then, and that's still a big catfish. Don't get me wrong. But stories get exaggerated. But I really was not prepared for when John and I saw that freaking Black Panther. I mean, it was like a paradigm shifting without a clutch. It was like, oh my God, there's a freaking mountain lion, but it's as black as the dead of night. And it had the big, thick, like velvet rope looking tail of a mountain lion. It was built like a mountain lion. Its teeth were freaking massive when it snarled at us. Yep. I didn't see horns. I don't remember seeing horns. I remember seeing it. To me, in my mind, it was a big freaking mountain lion, but it was completely black. And we got, like I said, it's not like we just saw it as a fleeting glimpse as it went by. We watched it finish that dog off. And John fired a couple rounds in the air to get its attention, and then it focused on us. And I'm fair certain if we hadn't been armed, it probably would have killed one or both of us. Because it was thinking about it. It crouched down and was like ready to spring at both of us. And it's like risk benefit analysis we talked about with large predators.
Right.
And, is this meal worth the damage I'm about to take? Because a wound for a wild animal is usually fatal, even if it's a fairly minor wound. If it gets infected, a predator will easily become prey for other predators because it can't fight or it can't hunt for itself. We'd have done damage to it. We'd have done as much as we possibly could. And I had enough ammunition in that thing. I probably would have put 10 rounds in that thing before it could have got me or John. Well, one of the two of us would have put that many in there. But it thought about it. It was clearly working the angles on whether or not it could kill both of us. Because neither of us were big kids. I was 15 or 16 at the time, so I was probably, I bucked hay and cut a lot of wood in those days. So I was probably 5'8", 5'9", and probably $180. I mean, I was a pretty solid kid, but I wasn't a freaking monster. I wasn't 6'7" and 310 pounds of muscle. I was just a solid country kid, and I think that thing weighed more than I did. So it weighed its options and decided not to attack us. But I think it probably could have got the job done if hadn't been armed.
Yeah, it was doing some survival arithmetic.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Gary Lowe says Steve was told the same thing in Bluff Woods, just south of St. Joe, by a conservation officer.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I would love to go track that dude now. Now that he's obviously published his thesis and everything else, I'm like, be curious to see what his conclusions were.
Karen Polson says, no mountain lions here in Wisconsin per the DNR. Ask a few farmers and they'll tell you they killed livestock and farmers shoot and bury them. Brock Blades quoting Jerry Clower. He's absolutely right. Shoot up here amongst us. One of us has got to have some relief. Knock him out, John.
Knock him out.
I got to thinking, DA, you were saying you didn't notice it had any horns on it. I don't know about you, but if it were me, I'd be having tunnel vision on its damn teeth.
Those
I mean,
massive incisors were, well, not incisors, those massive canines were first and foremost in my head, and it was very nearly a brown pants moment. I can tell you that.
I mean, the thing could have been wearing a Stetson hat and a dress, and I wouldn't have noticed.
I think the only reason I didn't break and run is because John didn't. John, that was his land. I grew up on a farm, but John grew up in the sticks, and he was just 100% hillbilly. I mean, that kid wasn't afraid of man or beast. He didn't run, I didn't run, and I think if it had been just me, I probably would have, and it probably would have caught me. Dee says, "Poor dog." Right, the dog was in the stage of bleeding out. Yeah, he put a 22 Magnum hollow point to its head to put it out of its misery.
It's the only humane thing you could have done.
Yeah.
Sharon Lane says, "Gary Lowe, there are sightings over by the Gallatin near the river." Craig Deal says, "I've seen 2 live Black Panther and one dead just east of Dodge City, Kansas." Those things are growing in population. There are people that have seen them in broad daylight here in Missouri. Darcy's Wiki says, "I remember hearing about bipedal cats since I was in the late grade, early to middle school, but don't remember what states." That's something I need to dig in more to.
It doesn't help that here in the Ozarks, we're starting to get a higher population of individuals that have a severe imbalance between their money and their brain cells. And they buy these exotic animals, and then they discover that they can't take care of them. They just loose them.
I knew a guy years ago when I was still back before I was a cop, when I was still working in factories. He had a Nile crocodile. He bought it as just a little bitty thing, and when that thing got about 5 feet long, he had to donate it to a zoo because it was too much to keep.
Yeah, my ex-father-in-law had a good friend who had an African lion. And the guy was rich as hell. He lived down in northern Arkansas, and he had a big house. I think lived in the house. It's a female African lion named Susie.
Look at that.
And I'm like, you wouldn't catch me and you going to a sleepover at that bastard's house.
No kid. Wake up with it eating your face. Pyromedic says, "I about had me a mountain lion rug last fall. It came checking me out, but decided to go the other way just in time." Yeah, if it's between me or the cat, I'm shooting the cat. I don't care what the Missouri Department of Conservation says. Junkyard Dog says, "Alabama Fish and Game have to admit there are bears here after a video shot earlier this week of one running down the road in Gadsden."
See, I'd be afraid of running into these in the woods and just be scared they have a sweet tooth and this fat ass diabetic would become lunch.
Somebody was on Facebook. Let me find the picture.
Rock.
Somebody had
Leave Joe Exotic alone, Steve. He's a national treasure. He is a hoot, man.
He's a colorful personality for sure.
Yeah, he is. All right, I got a question. I'm gonna pose to you. So Panthers, all right. So Black Panthers, they have a real horrific scream. If you've never heard one, y'all, that'll raise the hackles on the back of your neck. Do you think folks could have gotten some confusion with Panthers versus the Howler?
It's entirely possible. I mean, for example, I had a couple of guys that I was camping with up in Rocky Mountain National that were convinced they heard a Bigfoot, and it was an elk bugling. If you don't know what the local wildlife sounds like, then it could easily freak you out. But I would say not in every case. I would say in a lot of cases, yeah. But if somebody didn't know what a mountain lion sounded like, they just hear this horrendous scream out in the woods. I could see how they could think that was a howler and be convinced of it, and not making the story up at all. They heard a legitimate scream and they didn't know what it was, and so they attribute it to the howler. However, they're hunters in the 1800s when Missouri was first settled in the early 1800s. Hunters were already hunting mountain lion, so they knew damn good and well what they sounded like.
Gotcha. No, I was devil's advocate, just throwing it out there.
It's a great point, and I would say in some cases, yes. I would say a lot of cases where it was audio only, yeah. There'd be people who be like, I think that
that's what I was talking about, was audio only. So,
Well, there was when the boys were little, we took them camping down in Arkansas, down near the Current River, and we were down there, and boys were in the tent, and me and Ned were laying there, and we heard a mountain lion scream, and it wasn't very far away. My brother-in-law was there, and he had a camper on his truck, like an actual camper that you back the truck under, not just a shell. So we put the boys in the camper with Dawn, because we knew that thing was close, but we could hear the people in the next campground over. What the hell was that?
yeah,
That was a mountain lion, and it ain't far away.
It'll scare the hell out of you. It really will. It does sound like somebody just said, Gary Lowe, mountain lions sound amazing, like a woman screaming. They do. And when you're in a swamp at nighttime, and when them things cut loose, it'll make you want to go the other way.
Well, yeah, and the next thing you're going to hear, it sounds like a woman screaming, is going to be me.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just a couple of years ago. I can't remember I want to say it was 2020 or 2021. Might even been 2022, but it was very recently. They got footage, and was even made the local news, of a black bear walking through downtown Lebanon. And that's a town of about 15,000. I mean, it wasn't like at the city limits either. It was like down middle of town. So, these animals aren't afraid of us anymore.
No.
So it's no wonder that sightings are on the rise.
We're moving into their territory, and they don't have a fear of us anymore.
That's for sure.
Luis Noriega says, our relatives in Mexico, over here in Baja California, when they go up in the hills, they would see black cats out there too. Well, I'd say it's a trait that's probably breeding solid into the species, because a completely black animal, if it hunts nocturnal, it's going to have a tremendous advantage.
Well, that, and in most species, the darker pigments are the dominant traits.
Mm-hmm. Deez says, a male I could see maybe in the wild 160. Over that, I'd say you'd have to be looking at a black jaguar, where the cat grows easily to 250. Well, the mountain lion we saw, that son of a gun was huge.
Mm-hmm.
That thing had to been pushing 200 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Lene says, sorry friends, I have to leave. Outside dogs throwing a fit. We got to check it out. Miss Lene's got a large predator that's been screaming at her farm from the woods. Miss Lene, you be careful and let us know if everything's all right. It may be a mountain lion. I mean, she's hearing something screaming in the woods. Darcy's Wiki says, we have mountain lion in southeast Wisconsin, caught on trail cams, and local DNR still denies it. There were mountain lions caught on Ring doorbell cameras here in Springfield within the last year. Mm-hmm. That made the news.
Yep, South Springfield.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that far from my place.
Yeah, you're right. It wasn't that far. And Brock Blade says, so you leave Joe Exotic alone, Steve. He's a national treasure. William Nighthawk says they have black panthers on the Appalachian Trail. John Wayne Gates says, there was 3 a few years ago on the Snowden Road area, seen by different people, including a hunting dog guy, and a friend got a picture of one. All 3 were black.
Yeah.
Sharon Lane says, family was from Stone and Taney County in Missouri. Boy, things have changed. Yeah. Ken Brock says, we executed a search warrant, and they had a big caiman in the kitchen. Just loose in the kitchen. They got to be out of their mind.
So black panthers are native to the Americas, and they can get up to 6 feet long and 348 pounds.
Jesus, that's a big animal. I don't know how much the one we saw weighed, but it was freaking massive. And the John described the paw prints on the ground as pie plate sized.
Yeah.
The paws on the ground were that big around. They were bigger than my spread hand.
348-pound cat?
That's a big cat.
They said with a body length of up to 1.85 meters or 6'1", so that's not including the tail, and a weight of up to 158 kilograms, 348 pounds.
Jeez,
the largest cat species in the Americas.
Good Lord.
3rd largest cat in the world.
No.
They can shatter a turtle with their bite.
Mm-mm. Nope. Nope.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. That link that we put up earlier that Kelly Marie sent to us, she actually sent me the image from it. And this looks like, and granted, it's from a Kansas City grotto website, but I believe this was taken from inside Smittle Cave.
Oh yeah.
It's the same grate.
Yep. You see how big that freaking cave is.
Jesus.
Kind of reminds me of when I worked in the Springfield Underground. I mean, that's natural. That's not, none of that's natural. That's all hollowed out by explosives and rock carving equipment. It's a massive underground storage facility here in Springfield. And there's, at any given time, there's probably 50 semis down there. That place is huge.
I've seen pictures of that, DA. Yeah.
I used to work security down there.
That's pretty cool.
Dee says there's a woman in the Black Hills of South Dakota. She has a male lion in her home, a trailer house, and another in town. So on his land, this guy had 2 tigers. Good Lord. Big Show says, Big K Show says what's supposed to be in that cave. The reason they stripped the Smittle family of their land, they cited endangered Missouri brown bats, which Papa Bear found a link that said they're in every cave. They're scattered in caves across Missouri. So there's really no reason that they should have stripped the Smittles of their land. But the Smittles lost in court. I know that.
So I was just going down a rabbit hole here with the these Black Panthers. So supposedly they're not found in the U.S. They're not north of the Mexican border. They average about 123 to 212 pounds. But they have the shortest tail of any American cat. So getting one of them confused, or any big cat, getting one confused with a mountain lion would be pretty difficult because the mountain lions have some of the longest tails. I don't know. Still don't want to see one.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what we saw. You know, like I said, it looked like a mountain lion.
Here's the Black Panther. See how big its head and how short its tail is compared to like a mountain lion?
This one was longer and lean like a mountain lion. The one we saw was built like a freaking mountain lion.
Yeah. You look at a mountain lion, it looks like somebody put their head in a dryer run too hot. The heads are like too small for the body.
Yeah. No, I don't want to see one.
Mm-mm. Nope.
Thing is, because if you see it, and I've said this before on other shows, if you see it, it's seen you a long time before you saw it.
Yeah.
I just did a quick Google image search. Let me pull that up. This is an image of a black mountain lion, and this is pretty much what we saw.
Okay.
Yeah,
see how small its head is compared to that panther.
Yeah, and look how long
the big thick tail. That looks, to me, it looks exactly what. Only I don't know.
Well, it's kind of photoshopped.
Oh yeah, that's definitely photoshopped. But I don't know, something different about the head. It's almost like it had like a ruff around the back of it. That I'm thinking that the head doesn't look quite right. Like like the fur was like, maybe it was because it was agitated, but it seemed like the fur around the back of the head was kind of roughed out. Not like a mane, but more like fluffed.
Yeah, mine had just been pissed off like a regular domestic cat gets.
Yeah.
Trying to make itself look bigger.
That could have been the case. But other than that's pretty much exactly what we saw, the long, thin body. Here's the headquarters of the International Hoo-Hoo International. Their offices and museum in Gurdon, Arkansas. I want to make a road trip down there. I want to go find that place. Dee says, Western South Dakota on the plains in the morning, look out the windows first before you head out. Someone just walked outside and sits a cougar on their porch or even in their chair outside. They're not scared. Sugi says, I used to let my boys go across the road and play in the dry creek bed, not 50 yards from when we later encountered that cat. Dang.
That's crazy. If they got that, if they're that ballsy, man, whoo-wee.
You can find them selling themselves on your front porch.
Yeah. Well, bears are that ballsy. People find black bears on their porches all the time.
Yeah.
Penny Van says, Minneapolis, a large cat prowling around. That went on for 3 winters straight. There were vids and pics of it in yards. I live about 4 miles from where it was. Well, these big cats are certainly more prevalent. And it seems funny to me that the Hoo Hoo Society's image is a big cat, but the Ozark Howler has been described both as a large dog with horns and a large cat with horns. I always kind of leaned toward the big dog description, even though I've never seen one. I think it's because I think dogs are more intimidating than cats. Maybe it's personal bias, but I've never seen an Ozarks Howler. But the bulk of the descriptions seem to describe it as like a hellhound-like creature with horns. Yeah. But I have read cases where they describe it as a very big cat.
Every time I think of it, I'm a big nerd. I always used to play the Pokemon games when I was, starting when I was in college and continued to. And there's one called a Houndoom that looks like what you'd expect the Prowler look like. That whole hellhound look.
They're talking about, people in here in the chat talking about they get a taste for dogs and cats. They're coming in, they're coming into towns like in Boulder. Up there in Boulder, man, you don't leave your animals out at nighttime. The cats will come down from the hills and get them little snacks. The bears,
I've seen bobcat take house pets.
Oh yeah,
there's your howler.
That's funny.
Well, bobcats have been known to take house pets, well, small ones.
Yeah, Robbie said, leave that video of the woman who pushes the bear off her back porch to save her dogs. I saw that.
Yeah, I did see that video too.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lady in Castle Rock. I think it was Castle Rock or Golden, one of the towns, Castle Rock or Golden. They have a little cabin out there in the hills, and she hears her dog freaking out, and she had videoed it. There's a big old mountain lion just sitting there staring at the little yap dog, just and it was pawing at the window, like slowly wanting to get at the dog. And that dog was losing his damn mind.
Yeah, there was a ring cam video of a gal down by Branson. She apparently had a black bear in her backyard, didn't realize it, let the cat out, and the cat chased the bear up a tree in her backyard.
I love those videos when you see the little small animal or little small cat or dog chasing the bear off. The bear's like, dude, I just wanted to get some fruit, man. Damn.
Yeah. This is like a fairly small black bear. I think it was an adult, but it was a small one. But yeah, this gray tabby cat, it chased that damn bear probably 20 feet up a tree. And the bear just got its look at his face like, oh, hell no.
The bear's like, easy, dude.
Yeah. Back off, little man.
Yeah, I just wanted to get your trash can, bro.
Penny Van says another channel was saying Virginia DNR states that there are no mountain lions in Virginia. That's bollocks because I saw one in the 70s in the woods of the Shenandoah Valley. Shan Lane mentioned earlier there was bear sightings near Beaver Lake in Arkansas, and Bigfoot sightings too. War Eagle State Park is on Beaver Lake, and there is a report from 2 horseback riders who were riding some of the trails in War Eagle that claimed they were chased out by a white Gugway. Ooh. The initial report said white Bigfoot, but when you read their description, they talk about it having a pronounced snout, which is not a regular Bigfoot. War Eagle State Park in Arkansas. It's down by Eureka Springs.
That's kind of out of their territory, ain't it?
They've been spotting Gugway, sightings of people spotting Gugway as far south as East Texas.
Damn.
Eureka Springs has a kind of a Bigfoot theme in the town.
They kind of embraced it. Well, there was those pictures me and you taking with that big wooden Bigfoot.
Yeah, sit on Bigfoot's lap. Yeah. I was okay with the prospect of Bigfoot being out there, but not real happy with the idea that a Gugway are out there.
Yeah,
Well, it's not like neither of us were unarmed. Steve Patton
Yeah,
says, sorry, go ahead, Steve. Yeah, it
Glock
was a
versus
gun.
Bigfoot.
Yeah, well, very least I can slow it down, make myself seem jalapeno fat guy.
Oh,
He's spicy. That one came with some kick. Steve Patton says there was a house down in the southern part of the county when I was a deputy who had capuchin monkeys, 2 of them, and they were bitey. Screw that. Dee says my house is almost at the outside of town here. I've had coyotes and big coys walk right by me on the streets. When I'm working in the shop. They come to town for dogs and cats. That's an easy meal.
yeah,
Gary Lewis has had a bobcat around here a few years back that was killing coyote pups in the woods behind our house. Little Bear Running says there was a gal on the news. She shoved a black bear off her fence in her backyard. I saw that video.
Yep, that's one Robbie was talking about.
Miss Naomi knows exactly what I'm talking to. She says, I love going to the War Eagle Mill. That is a beautiful park. If you've never been down to the War Eagle State Park in Arkansas, it is a beautiful place. And right there on Beaver Lake, oh, that is such a beautiful country. I would love to build a cabin in the mountains down there, but my wife had never put up with it. She wants to live someplace civilized, and I want to live farther away from it. 20 years in law enforcement, I don't want to live around people anymore. Louis Noriega says, we have mountain lions and bobcats over here in Orange County. Sharon Lane says, that's surprising over there because there are a lot more houses now. Wyatt Estes says, it seems like they are in like the lake shores. My buddy's son seen something big and black get up and walk off on 2 legs on the shore of Table Rock Lake. He didn't know what it was. We get both Bigfoot and Dogman sightings from around Table Rock Lake. And that's where we had our incident down in Joe Bald. I've had multiple Dogman sightings from people from that area. In fact, I'm planning on going back down to Joe Bald sometime in the very near future. I want to shoot some more video down there. But I need to get a 4-wheel drive so I can get into the one that's been bulldozed off. My little SUV is not going to cut it to get in there. I need to get to talk to somebody to go with me that's got a good sized 4-wheel drive so we can get into Combs Ferry. We've either got to go in with a 4-wheel drive to get over the barricades, or we got to go in by boat. That's the only 2 ways to get into Combs Ferry now. Well, on foot, but I don't really want to go in on foot. James Montgomery says we don't have enough trees in the South Plains for Bigfoot or Dogman. Aussie Sue says government also denying anything about any of these creatures being found in their areas. Just more BS cover up. I totally agree. Little Bear Running says, do Gugway have a snout like a dog nose? More like think mandrill, like a baboon. They look very ape-like, but their nose is more like a mandrill, like a blunted mouth full of canines. The Gugway's head is very mandrill-like. Everything all right, Doc?
Oh yeah.
I seem to have lost both you and Steve.
Sorry, man. I was indisposed for a moment.
You're right. Hey, we're at the top of the 2-hour mark. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Dark Angel, and we'll jump back into this unless you've got to go.
Yeah, I mean, I got to get on a little bit because I got to get up and teach again in the morning.
Okay.
All righty then. Let's talk about Dark Angel Medical. So, folks, if you don't know about Dark Angel Medical, head over to darkangelmedical.com. Check out our website. See what we do. If you're a reader of DA's books, you may have seen some of my products, some of my in his book, and used in different scenarios. So we make trauma kits, and we provide training on those kits as well. Travel all over the United States, just like right now I'm in El Paso, Texas, doing a class down here this weekend. We are firm believers in putting good quality products in our kits because it may be the kit that you use on yourself, someone you love, or even a complete stranger, and you want to have some solid results that you can count on with some products that I've used and friends of mine have used as well. We have a coupon code for you. If you go to our website, you can use a coupon code Cryptid 25, and that will give you 25% off of your order. If you have an HSA or FSA account, they are also eligible for that. And if you use one of our products to save a life, just let us know and we will replace whatever you have used absolutely 100% free of charge. That is called the Kit for Life Guarantee. And just got word that we are at 166. So
Hell yeah.
166 saves as a result of that. And people need to understand that it's not just for, a range kit or a car kit or anything like that. If you're out and about, keep one at home. I keep one by every fire extinguisher in my house. Because if everybody knows where my fire extinguisher is, they know where the kit is. And if you need a kit, you need a kit. You don't need to sit there and go, man, I wish I'd have bought a kit. So be proactive rather than being reactive, and head over to darkangelmedical.com and we will get you sorted out. And that's just the Cryptid 25 coupon code is just our way of saying thank you for supporting a disabled veteran-owned small business. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. We are all about supporting our veterans. We'll talk about Scallywag here shortly. Want to jump back in before we got too terribly sidetracked. Let me take that off the screen. William Nighthawk says, I highly endorse Dark Angel Medical. As a military vet, you need to be prepared. Absolutely.
Man, thank you, brother. Yeah.
Ryan, I would love to go, but I'm afraid the trip to Alaska right now is kind of out of the financial question. But yeah, maybe one of these days. It would cost a small fortune to get to Alaska with a quantity of books. Gary Lowe says, sent your information to our head safety guy at work, Doc. Hope he's smart enough to want to get them for us.
Thank you, Gary. I appreciate it, man. Very much.
Yeah, Doc, here at the urgent care that I work in, we're one of the clinical sites for the SOCM medics.
Those guys are badass.
And so they come up and train. They get most of them come up from Bragg, some of them from Fort Hood. But they'll come up, and every time one of them comes up, I always talk up your stuff. And it was funny. You'll see them. It's like, what's the name of the company again? They're like on their phones, putting it all in. Oh, it's pretty badass. So hopefully some of it turns into some money for you.
Cool. Thanks, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thank you much.
Well, when they they hear veteran owned, and then they start to look at the capabilities of those kits, knowing what they're going into for a living. Yeah. They're like, yeah, that's what I want to do.
And I've got some tier 1 and tier 2 buddies who've carried my stuff down range. And have had to use it, and they were not disappointed with the results. So I'm very, very happy that they were able to have that stuff with them on their deployment.
Dark Angel Medical is like a gun or a condom. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. You can add a parachute to that too. Hey. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
That's right. Amen to that.
Because if you ever need it and don't have it, you may never need one again.
That is a fact. Faux show. Man, my voice is getting deeper as the night's going on.
Noticed.
Starting to sound like Sam Elliott.
There we go.
My wife would hate that.
Yeah.
She didn't like Sam Elliott?
No, she loves Sam Elliott. Dude, she loves Sam Elliott. Beef is what dinner.
Give Doc another hour, he'll be able to introduce some smooth jazz on the radio.
Exactly.
Turn it into a miniature Barry White.
I know. I'm Barry White out here.
Hey, Doc. I got a medical question, and I think this is a good one to talk about. It would have been a better one to bring up the other night when we were talking about, the survival pack and evidence collection. But I should have brought this up the other night then, but I didn't think of it. Snake bites. Well, if somebody gets bit by a snake, and I know it's a dangerous thing no matter where you're at, what's the first thing they should do and how should they treat it?
Keep the immobilized limb, because typically you're going to get bitten in the limb. Typically people get bitten from the elbow down or from the knee down. They're reaching into something or they're stepping over something. If you get bitten by a crotolid or the elapidae, the crotolids that we have here indigenous to the United States, are pit vipers, rattlesnakes, water moccasins, also known as the cottonmouth, and copperheads. The elapids, that's our neurotoxic snakes versus the hemotoxic snakes. The elapids is our coral snake. If you get bitten by any snake here in the United States, immobilize the limb below the level of the heart and rapid evacuation to a definitive care facility, because none of those snake bite kits, that's snake oil, literally. You might as well take the $20 you spend on that kit and wipe your butt with it, because you'd have about the same exact results with it. The American Medical College of Toxicologists did a study on those snake bite kits, and it removed exactly 0.02% of the fake venom that they injected into their subjects. So it's like throwing a fat kid a Pez. It ain't gonna work. So if you get bit by a snake, get your ass to the hospital with a quickness, because you do have a limited amount of time. If you don't get anaphylactic shock from it, you're going to have a limited amount of time before you get there. If you're so inclined to take said snake to the hospital with you for identification, please, for the love of sweet baby 8-pound, 6-ounce baby Jesus, do not take a live snake. And if you do take a snake, make sure the head is chopped off, burned, and or buried, so it cannot envenomate you, because a venomous snake, like a crotalid, like a pit viper, rattlesnake, water moccasin, or copperhead, can envenomate you up to 8 hours post-mortem, even if they have been decapitated. So, got to know your enemy. I hate snakes.
So you're saying this isn't all that useful?
That's about
I've had this in my bag for years.
I have one of those in one of my canteen covers, DA, from when I was at Fort Bragg. That's about as useless as saddlebags on a pig.
Well, maybe I'll dump the crap out of it and put matches in it to keep them dry.
Yeah.
So would you tourniquet it off then, Doc?
No, because the crotalid snake, because down in Australia, they have, in Toombs and Aussie Sioux can verify this, they have the neurotoxic snakes, right? They don't have the hemotoxic snakes like we have here. Well, the majority. And so down there, they use a pressure immobilization bandage technique, which keeps the venom localized in the lymph system, which keeps it from spreading. If you localize a hemotoxic venom here in the United States with a crotalid, you're going to think of it like putting battery acid in your arm and localizing it there. It's going to cause a lot more soft tissue damage. So no constricting bands, no constricting bandages, no freaking tourniquets. No, dude, I even saw some idiot on YouTube saying if you use a stun gun on your snake bite, you'll reverse the polarity of the venom.
What?
I'm like, wait, so I just got snake bit. Now you want me to put 50,000 volts to my ass? So that sounds like a totally legitimate thing to do. So
the old cowboy movies where they cut a slit in it and suck the poison out didn't work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you ain't Rooster Cogburn, son, so don't be sucking the poison out. So, and Toombs just confirmed what I said. The neurotoxic snakes down there, okay, that's cool. So let's say you did get bit by a coral snake, and you got to really be working hard to get bit by a coral snake here in the States, because they are very, very reclusive. So you got to,
and they got to chew on you.
Yeah, exactly. Then they got to chew on you. So you got to be doing some Steve Irwin shit, like, watch, I'm going to stick my thumb right in his cloaca, and that's really going to piss him off, So don't be messing around with them. But if you did get bit by a coral snake, you could use a pressure immobilization bandage technique, but definitely not with any of the crotalids down here that have the hemotoxic venom, because that stuff's like battery acid. It's very caustic, corrosive venom that'll destroy tissue. So
it's very necrotic stuff.
Yeah, let it sounds totally counterintuitive, but let that venom hemodilute, let it circulate, So yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. I wanted to clear that up. Another thing that crossed my mind is nasty spider bites, because we have some pretty nasty varieties of spiders here in Missouri.
Yep, absolutely, man. Well, and brown recluse is one of those.
Black widow.
And black widows. Black widows typically just make people really sick unless they have an anaphylactic reaction to it. Brown recluse seems to be the more dangerous little sucker because of the hemotoxic venom it has, and it can cause some really, really horrific secondary infections from that. So,
and the bacterial cultures they carry too.
I got bit by what I thought was a brown.
Yeah.
I got bit by what I thought was a brown recluse years ago when I first got out of the Army. I was wearing shorts working in a warehouse in the summer, and I got bit in the right thigh just above the knee, and it got nasty and black and swelled
Ooh.
up. And I slit it open with a box knife and squeezed all the goop out of it, and did that like because I didn't have any health insurance. I was just out of the Army. I was broke as shit,
Oh my
and
God.
so I just slit it open with a box knife and squeezed the goop out of it. I did that like 6 or 7 times over the next couple of weeks, and it finally went away.
Well, at least you didn't die from it, so I guess it just made you stronger.
Oh, if I'd have got like bad feverish and sick, I'd have went to the emergency room. But I didn't have any health insurance or anything at the time, and I was like, well, shit, gonna treat this myself.
Yeah, Aussie Sue said, I think we've got around the 10 deadliest snakes in the world right here in Australia. Aussie Sue, I believe you're right.
I think they have 7 of the 10 deadliest snakes on the planet in Australia.
Everything down there's all the plants are made of knives, and all the animals want to kill you. And Judy Davis said, my daughter got bit by a copperhead when she was 2.5, and they gave her antibiotics. They just gave her antibiotics. She was in hospital for 4 days. Now, I think she did get some of its temperament, though. Now, the cool thing about copperheads is they have some of the lowest concentration of the crotolid venom. And I had a friend of mine, very similar situation. She stepped on one while they were hiking out in Georgia, up in the mountains there near Dahlonega, and she got bit 4 times. That thing popped her 4 times, pop, 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 pop on the ankle, and had 8 distinct puncture marks where that thing had zapped her. All of them were dry strikes, and they just watched her for signs of envenomation, didn't start the anti-venom, and gave her antibiotics, and she was home the next day. So sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't.
Little Bear Running says box cutter infection,
Yeah,
DALO.
exactly.
I ain't the brightest bulb in the pack. I actually went with a Boy Scout knife, the little pliers that come on a Boy Scout knife. I pulled one of my own wisdom tooth with a Boy Scout knife with the little pliers. This one right over here.
See, my ex-father-in-law had a pretty good bear recluse by about where yours was, DA, and we didn't know what else to do. He was another, didn't have insurance. I couldn't think of anything else. Wasn't a nurse back then, but I made a poultice out of baking soda and packed it around that thing and wrapped it up in a bandage, and had changed it out about twice a day like that. It did a pretty good job cleaning it up.
I would coat mine after I would slice it and squeeze it till it started bleeding. I would coat it with Prid and then wrap it up and wore like a ace bandage over it with clean gauze on it. And it finally just drew it all out. I don't even have much of a scar there. You can still kind of see where it was, but it ain't like a big divot like a lot of people have. It's about the size of a penny, and it's just kind of a slight impression, not huge.
Holy shit! Listen, Aussie Sue, Tomb. I was put into shock with a redback spider years ago. It was smaller than a match head. Holy sweet baby Jesus!
Jeez Louise, you must be really susceptible to the venom.
Dang. Well, it's like those damn funnel web spiders too. Those things have freaking fangs the size of freaking thumbtacks that can bite through your damn toenail.
You bite through a thin shoe. Not through a boot, like a leather boot, but Delois Montgomery says, here in Texas, we live about 5 miles from the canyon. We had rattlesnakes by the dozen. Never been bit, but you never know. They don't rattle as much as they used to. When I lived out in New Mexico, anytime we went walking anywhere, we took a sharp-bladed spade with us, walked with a shovel, and if you saw one of those, you can kill snakes quick as hell with a shovel.
Those and they when I went pig hunting down near here in El Paso a couple years back, they were like, dude, wear your snake boots because everywhere you go, because they don't rattle like they used to. And I don't know. They said, one guy said, I don't know if it's an evolutionary thing or not, but he said maybe their snakes have figured out that the pigs will hear them rattling, and the pigs will eat them, and the pigs are not they're immune to the venom. So that's like ringing a dinner bell. So that's what pigs out here were saying.
Pigs love snakes.
Yeah,
they'll root them out and eat them. Jake Light says, I was sitting on a riverbank fishing, and a copperhead crawled under my butt and curled up, absorbing my body heat. Never been so lucky as I was when I stood up and it slithered away instead of biting. Oh yeah, you don't want to go to the ER with a copperhead bite to your taint.
Oh my Lord, dude.
They'll probably show up in my urgent care. That would be my luck.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
You're gonna have to suck that up. You're gonna die, buddy.
We tend to run a special on taint wounds on the weekends.
Oh my Lord in heaven. That's terrifying.
Oh.
Well, did you see somebody posted something? There was a video of a funnel web striking a shovel and denting it.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh my God.
Ken, I knew we'd circle back to the butt stuff. That's just right up your alley, ain't it?
Yeah, that's all for you, Ken. That's all for you, brother.
Man, I tell you what, anytime I go down to, I got some Rocky snake boots, Rocky brand snake boots are really super comfortable. Might be the one Sharon Lane's talking about. Every time I go back home to Mississippi and we're back there dicking around with woods in the woods and everything, a fence row, or I come here to Texas, go pig hunting, I got snake boots on, son. They're like hip waders on me. But you know, they're snake
You have to
boots.
cut a little groove out of them before they hit you in the crotch.
That's right. I mean, my legs are only 24
Ken
inches.
says he learned it from you, Doc.
That's right. Great minds think alike, brother.
I need to get a new pair of snake boots. I think I had to chuck my last pair because they got moldy. I put them away wet and they molded.
Yeah, Rocky is a good brand of boots.
Rockies, I like Rockies. Danners and Rockies are about my two favorite boots. You know, this might be a good moment to talk about Scallywag now, real quick.
Okay.
Let me bring it up. Folks, if you are unfamiliar with my books or the podcast at all, you may not know who Scallywag Tactical is. But if you've read any of the books and you know about Dark Angel Medical, then you've heard me talk about Scallywag Tactical. They make just absolute amazing blades, just absolute awesome knives. This one's called the Gunner's Mate. I write about these things all the time in my books. Hold an edge like no other knife I've ever owned. I mean, just absolute fantastic blades. They make pocket knives and big monster knives, and they make a boarding axe and every knife I got a knife for every occasion. This one's called the Dew Claw, and they're discontinuing this one this year. But this is one of my everyday carry knives. I carry this, and where's it at? Oh, it's in my pocket. That's why it's staying up there where I usually store it. I carry this one on my belt and this one in my pocket. So I've generally got two knives on me at any given time in the day. And if I'm wearing this vest, there's a third one inside the interior pocket. But I like to be prepared, and I do like having my options. But a good blade in a bad situation, a good blade will save your life. And I'd highly recommend Scallywag Tactical. They make fantastic blades. Craig Burhart's just an absolute awesome dude. Go ahead, Doc. Oh, he said he'd be right back. And if you go over to Scallywag, you can even get some of their knives that are on what they call the blemish blade sale. There's a lot of the pocket knives that are featured on the blemish blade. In fact, you can get the Orca, if I can find the Orcas. You can get them on sale right now for, I believe it's $8. And if you use the discount code, it makes it $7.20. And it's hard to get a knife of that quality for that little amount. This is one of the blemish blades. I still got it in the box. This is the Orca. No, that's not it. That's the wrong one. That's the other Jolly Roger. This is the Orca. I got that on the blemish blades. Not a thing wrong with this knife. It's an absolute perfect blade. I think the only thing wrong is one of the corners of the box was munched a little bit. I got it for $7.20 using the discount code. Just an absolute great utility knife to keep on you. And for $7.20, you just can't go wrong. They make fantastic knives. It's a veteran-owned company, and we are all about supporting our veterans. It's a good company to deal with, and they stand by the products they make. Fantastic blades, and you definitely can't go wrong. If you go to Scallywag Tactical or use the link that's right there, or the one that's popped up in chat, use discount code DA Roberts 10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order, and that includes the blemished blades. Also want to mention another fantastic veteran-owned company, and you've seen them comment tonight. That's Brock Blades. That's Ken Brock. Ken's a friend of mine in Doc's. Ken's an amazing guy. He made one of my Thor's hammers He's the manufacturer he's the guy that he hand makes all of his knives. They're all custom made by hand. And he made all of those, all of the Ardennes Bowie knife that Will Gray Eagle carries. If you're familiar with my Apex Predator books or the Codename Wild Hunt books, and you know who William Gray Eagle, I always mention that he carries an Ardennes. That's a handmade custom knife by Ken Brock. And just his blades are not just works of art. I mean, they are absolutely stunningly beautiful knives, but they're built to be used. They're not to be set on a shelf and look at. And they're handcrafted, beautiful blades, and each one's is a work of art. And in fact, I've got an order in for an Ardennes personally, and I cannot wait to get it because that'll probably replace my dew claws, my everyday carry, and I'll keep the Jolly Roger as a pocket knife, but I'll probably carry that Ardennes as my everyday blade.
This is the Brock Blades neck scalpel, and this thing is so sharp it'll cut you if you look at it wrong.
How catch it 3 ways, Doc?
Long, deep, and continuous.
But and Ken Brock's another. He's law enforcement, a veteran, and just an absolute awesome dude. If you're wanting a custom knife made to your specifications, check out brockblades.com. And let him know we sent you because he's a fantastic dude. He's a good friend of ours, and we want to send him all the success that we possibly can. So check out all 3 of those, and and we're proud to support our veteran-owned companies.
Amen.
Gary Lowe says, love the 2 that I got last week. Got 2 sailor-assisted folders for $13.50 each, and we're absolutely nothing wrong with them. Yeah, the sailor-assisted folder is a beautiful knife, and I love this knife so much. Because if you've got a pocket knife, say you've got arthritis, or you have difficulty opening a pocket knife, if I've got my old standby that my dad gave me when I was like 13, the old buck knife, but that it's a little clunky to open, especially if you got to open it one-handed. But this thing, that's it, just a flick of a finger and it's open. It's a spring assisted. It literally just the flick of my finger and she's open. It is wicked sharp. And for $13.50, it is a steal. On the Blemish blades, and I know they still got some available. But check those guys out. We want to definitely support our veteran-owned companies. We're proud to support our veterans, and we're big proponents of supporting like the 22 a day foundation and the Valhalla project. In fact, I've got one of my Valhalla projects mugs with me tonight. ValhallaProject.com. Every bit of the proceeds from 22 a Day Foundation and the Valhalla Project goes to veterans charities to help end veteran suicide. We're losing 22 a day, folks, and that's 22 too many. So if you know anybody that's first responder or military, those folks see a lot of crap that human mind wasn't meant to wrap itself around. Do a check-in on them once in a while. Just let them know you're thinking about them, because your kind word might make all the difference in the world. You never know when something you do or say might change the world for somebody who's going through a lot. And I'm happy to say that I know somebody personally who said that something I wrote in the last Codename Wild Hunt in Death and Dyatlov Pass, when Clark got his closure, when Clark met his fallen buddies in Valhalla, when he met them, he said that scene saved his life. And wow. He said, and I when he told me that, I was moved to tears, folks. I legit was moved to tears. I never thought anything that I would write would pull somebody back from the brink, and you know what? I thank God that it did. I'm glad that something I could write would help somebody, and it was powerful words. I mean, I thanked him about a dozen times for sharing that story with me, and I won't say who it is. I mean, on the odd chance he might be in the audience tonight, or any of y'all might know him, but I'm not gonna say who it is. Just say he's a good friend of mine now, and I'm damn proud that something that I wrote could have helped him in any way. And
That's awesome.
I'm I'm very, very proud of that. So, we're, like I said, we're all about our veterans charities here. We're about supporting our veterans and checking in our buddies, because 22 a day is way too many, folks. So be there for your friends who were first responders. Steve's a first responder. Steve's a nurse. Those guys, my hat is off to them. I've worked the ER in security, and the stuff that the nursing staff that they go through on a nightly basis, it boggles the mind. I couldn't do it. I couldn't sit there and hold the hand of a child and tell them that everything's going to be okay, even when they're dying. One of my first times I worked the ER as a security officer. All security always gets called to the trauma landings, the helicopters, and the facility I worked at was the level 1 trauma center. I think it's the only one in Southwest Missouri. Top flight. I mean, absolute best of the best when it comes to trauma surgeons. I got called up to the helipad, and they said they need assistance. Get everybody you can up there to help them unload, and because they're coming in hot. And being another officer, go running up there, and as we get up there to the back of this chopper, it was one of the types of choppers that the back doors open and they bring the gurney out through that. One of the flight nurses was straddled of the person doing chest compressions as we opened the doors. And they brought that gurney out, and medical staff rushed in, and it was a woman that had been hit head on in a car crash down in Arkansas. And they handed me her legs and said, "Keep up." And that's an eye-opening experience. And those ladies and gentlemen in the medical field, they deal with that kind of thing all the time. And the human mind really isn't meant to wrap around that. I still, once in a while, I'll stop and get the heebie-jeebies when I think of the fact that I carried this woman's legs down to the ER. They were able to reattach one of them, amazingly. The other one had been basically just crushed off, and there's nothing they could do for it. But the other one was off clean enough; they were able to reattach, and she lived. But that one sticks with me because I've seen some pretty horrendous crap as a cop, but I've never had somebody hand me a bag with human limbs in it. And that one kind of shook me.
I would second what DA said about the quality of the trauma staff. We've got it. We're
second
used to work, and I currently work. He just stepped down from chief of trauma, but our chief of trauma, if you guys are familiar with the lone survivor story, it was the SEAL, wasn't he, Marcus Luttrell? Mm-hmm. Our chief of trauma was the surgeon that put him back together when he landed in Germany after this lone survivor event. And, he was an Air Force brigadier general, wasn't he? He actually he's still he's active reserve right now, and he is now a full colonel.
Well, I know one of the trauma surgeons was an Air Force brigadier general.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about Tim Woods.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of somebody else. It's not Tim.
Yeah, he's he's officially a colonel. I think he was a lieutenant colonel at the time of the lone survivor event. But he's a badass, and he's a hell of a good surgeon just for day to day, where he actually operated on my wife, and he's second to none, and a hell of a nice guy. Doc might have trouble working with him because he's about 6'7", but
Doc would have to reach up to hand him an instrument.
Seriously, I think to be on a trauma team, you have to be at least 6'4". Yeah, I think you're muted, Doc.
Can't hear you, Doc.
I said, was his call sign Lurch? Good Lord.
Well, it's funny. At one point, the shortest person on our trauma team of surgeons was a 6'3" woman.
That's a tall lady.
Yep. And when I went to go observe them during my residency, even the doc's PA is over 6 foot. And I'm right at 6 feet tall. And they literally had me standing on an apple box just off the sterile field because I couldn't see what was going on. The damn table was so high.
Good.
And I felt like a kid at the family reunion trying to see what's on the table.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And folks, my hat's off to those folks in the medical community, and that's EMTs, the guys that run the bus that bring the trauma patients in, the flight crews, the ER staff, the nurses on the floors. My hat's off to all of them, because those folks really put it on the line, and a lot of people take for granted the crap that they go through just to provide the level of care that they do. And we say a prayer for those folks, because it takes a special breed to do that. And even though I was working security, I was privy to a number of fairly horrific events, but the nursing staff and the medical staff just waded in like it was just another event, and they handled it, and they were amazing. I've seen multiple stab wounds, multiple gunshot wounds, amputations. I've seen all kinds of stuff in the ER, and the staff just does it, handles it, and it's amazing to watch them work. But my hat's off to everybody, and I say a prayer for everybody that works in that field, and I include everybody from the medics on up in that. They all do an amazing job, and they see a lot of crap that, again, we're not meant to see. So if you're thinking, if you know somebody that's a first responder, or has been in the military, or has seen combat in the military, especially, reach out to your veteran friends, your first responder friends, and check on them once in a while. Do a buddy check-in. Just let them know you're thinking about them, because some of these folks have dealt with the absolute mind-bogglingly horrific things, and it haunts people. It really does. It does. So reach out to those folks. Let them know you're thinking of them, because you never know when that one kind word is what pulls them back from the brink. And again, my hat's off, and I pray for them every night. Steve and Doc, I couldn't do what you boys do. I really couldn't.
It takes a whole lot of ain't right.
That's truth, man. And I definitely ain't right in the head.
Oh my God. And just the surrealness of it. I was a floor nurse for a long time. I only recently got into emergency medicine, but I had a dude come up with a big open abdominal wound, and he coughed and he eviscerated, like his intestines fell out on the bed as he's talking to me. Nothing prepares you for that. And we're kind of putting them all back on him, and basically trying to keep from tangling anything, covering with some sterile dressing, and calling the surgeon. We're like, call the surgeon, but hey, doc, such and such, Mr. Whatever just called eviscerated himself. And I'm like, what do you mean he eviscerated himself? I'm like, his guts are on the bed. They fell on the bed. Well, what do you mean? They fell the F on the bed, doc. Get up here. It's like,
yeah,
they don't process what you're telling them. And they rushed him down to surgery. They fixed him. He was discharged 2 days later, but it's like,
yeah. I mean, when somebody's insides are now their outsides, it's time to make haste.
Well, yeah, you walk in there and you see, you're thinking of like stuffing Luke Skywalker in there in Empire, make sure he stays warm.
Yeah, absolutely. My greatest pleasure and honor in my life was to take care of my boys. I ain't gonna lie to you. That was the greatest honor and pleasure of my life. So yeah, y'all take care of yourselves and take care of those that take care of you. That's for sure. And
absolutely,
you do what you're doing, Doc. You literally have whatever the living equivalent of a body count is. What was that? 166 saves you said for Dark Angel?
Yeah.
I mean, dude,
that's a whole lot of people still drawing breath because of you, Doc.
Yeah.
Not to mention the ones you saved in the military.
Well, it ain't just me doing it, brother. And I don't remember the ones I saved. I remember the ones I couldn't. And that's something that you don't forget, and you basically you live to honor them. And that's the way I tell all the folks that I've talked to and I've helped out and mentored, is you live to honor them, so they don't ever die. You keep speaking their names, because the only time somebody truly dies is when their name is mentioned for the last time. So
right.
You got to keep mentioning them for sure.
That's awesome.
Well, folks, I hate to wrap things up on a somber note, but Doc's got an early day tomorrow teaching class, And the classes that he teaches may save lives farther down the road. The impact that Doc is making among first responders is a ripple effect. I'm not even sure Doc really understands how far what he's doing is going to reach, because when Doc is long gone, the lessons he taught will still be out there. And Doc, not a lot of people in this world can truly say they've made a difference, but brother, you have.
I'm trying, man.
And I love you for it, brother.
I love y'all too.
None of that.
Same with Steve. I mean, he's saved lives, and that is a hell of a thing. That is, you guys. Yeah, I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys so much.
Those winds feel pretty good. They keep you out of the bottle, or at least let you pull yourself out a little bit faster.
Well, that's why so many veterans and first responders self-medicate.
Yep.
But again, folks, just like listening to Doc here, there are times I text him, hey fucker, you awake? Just to see how he's doing. He gets random shit texts from me all the time. It's because I want to check on my first responder friends, my people that I know that need it. Because we all need
always
it
know the
point.
ones you care about, because the greeting starts with "Hey fucker."
That's right. Or "Hey dickhead" or something like that.
That's a term of endearment right there.
That is a fact. Yeah, that's just how we are amongst each other. And I tell you, I've never been flipped off more in my life than I've been from fellow cops. We used to flip each other off constantly, and I got into the habit. And I'll tell you this quick story before I wrap things up. I got into the habit of like I know all the Springfield officers that like I said, I worked as a county deputy forever, so I knew like 90% of the Springfield police officers. Well, I was heading to work. No, I was actually off that day because I was in civilian clothes. I was heading up Cherry Street, just down the road from the house. And I see a SPD cruiser coming toward me, and I swear I recognized the guy. I'm like, I know that guy. That's so and so. And as he gets close, I just flipped him off, just out of habit, just flipped him off. And as he's going by me, I see him looking over at me, and I'm like, wait, I don't know him. But it was too late. I'd already done it. So like a week later, I was working down in booking at the jail, and he comes in bringing a prisoner, and he's looking at me like you see the wheels turning, like he's trying to figure out where he knew me from. And I went over and I'm like, hey, I saw you the other day. He's like, oh, yeah? I'm like, yeah, I flipped you off. He goes, that was you? I said, yeah. I said, I thought you were somebody else. I thought you were Broadway. And he's like, man, I was having a great day today. I just thought some jackass flipped me off for no reason. I was pissed off the rest of the day. He says, now that I know you're in uniform, he says, it's perfectly fine. He says, expect it back from now on. But at that point, he's like, you ruined my day that day. I'm like, I'm sorry about that, man. But I will still pull up next to, even though I'm not a cop anymore, I'll still pull up next to another, like a SPD cruiser or somebody that I know, and I'll hear boop boop on the horn. I'll look over and they'll be flipping me off. I'm like, hey, how's it going?
It's like a salute.
Exactly.
I was going to say, when you salute a superior officer, you use 4 fingers. When you're saluting a friend, you use 1.
That's right. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank y'all for being with us tonight. We enjoyed it.
Thank everyone in the gallery for making it interesting.
Exactly.
Absolutely. We had some awesome comments. Great questions tonight. Thank you. A big shout out and thank you to all the mods. I also want to say thank you to all the patrons over the Patreon community. If you're not a member of the Patreon community, you can check that out over at patreon.com/DARobertsauthor. And the patrons really do make a huge difference, and they can help shape the future of the DA-verse. Not only can they help decide what books come next, what sequence, what order I'm doing the books in. They've got input on titles. They've got input on book covers. And there's a bunch of short stories over there available that aren't anywhere else. In fact, they usually get the first chapter or 2 of a book before it's even published. So hope you guys will check out patreon.com/DARobertsauthor. It really does help out a lot, more than you realize. Because I ain't exactly making Stephen King money writing books. I would love to be, but I'm not quite there. I got a ways to go. In fact, if Stephen King woke up with my numbers, he'd probably hang himself from a shower curtain. But that's another story. But folks, thank you guys for hanging out with us. We had a great time. We will be back on Wednesday night. appreciate you guys, just hanging out with us and all your questions and everybody being, part of the family here, because that's what it is. We don't have fans, we have friends. Welcome to the DAX Machina Nation, especially if you're new here. We would love to earn your like, share, and subscribe. We try to do that every show. We're just some people, folks. We're nothing special. We don't claim to be experts on anything, and we don't claim to have all the answers, but we're willing to share what we know and listen to what you guys got to say, and maybe we'll find some kernel of truth between the group of us. This show was always intended to be just like guys sitting around having a conversation around a campfire over a beer, and hopefully that's what it will always be. And thank you guys for being part of it. Thank you guys for joining us on this journey, because we've come a long way, and we're just now right at 2 years old. I believe the first week of May is when we'll be officially 2 years old. And we're rapidly approaching 5,000 subscribers, which is absolutely awesome. We're at 4,713 as of the beginning of the show. So, folks, share the channel with people that like this kind of content, because we are still growing, and we want you guys to be along for that ride, because God knows where it's going to take us. I mean, we're gonna be digging more into this stuff. We're going to be taking a lot more video. We've got outings planned. We've got a lot of stuff in the future that we want to share with y'all. And hopefully you guys will check out all my books over at daroberts.net. Hopefully you'll find something you enjoy, because I write a lot of cryptid horror, but I also write sci-fi, fantasy, and horror itself. Not just cryptid horror. I've done zombies and other things as well. Tons of short stories. So check all that out over at daroberts.net. Again, I've said it before, we don't have fans, we have friends. And stories are journeys that we take together. And I want to thank each and every one of you guys for taking that journey with us. And from all of us here at DAX Machina, I know I speak for the guys here and for Anthony and Robbie, who couldn't be here. We want to thank everybody out there for being part of this, and a special thanks to all of our moderators and our patrons, and also a huge shout out and thanks to all of our first responders and soldiers and military personnel, everybody that stood the line. We're proud of you. We're thankful for you, and we'll pray for you each and every night. So, folks, thank you again for spending time with us. We will see you guys on Wednesday night, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Good night, everybody, and God bless.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on DAX Machina. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.